we didn't even really pick apart too much, at least not in the manner that we normally do Psalm 130, the 11th step. But this one in particular today is not so much that we have to pick it apart, it's that we have to take time out to, to kind of learn to respond, to operate correctly, to grow in, etc. And really, this is about putting the Most High first, putting culture first, which is what we're always teaching, right? We're always trying to tell people, make sure that the culture comes first, right? That's the thing that's often missing. So if you want to go ahead and turn there, we'll get started in a second. I'm getting Facebook up and going. We got YouTube going already, and then we'll get started. But this is more so what we're dealing with today. And grand rising to everybody. Bakwar Tav, Bakwar, I hope that you're having a great rising so far. Bakwar, Allah, Acham Yachava, may this rising be upon you today. May this great rising be upon you in the name of Yachava, Alacham. And we're going to get right into this in a second. Once again, this is our Song of Degrees series. Psalm 131. And hopefully you guys once again are doing well and having a great time already in Yahweh. And there's a whole day left, but we praise Yah that we can already be in His will and already be doing great things. We don't have to wait on a specific item to be able to give the Most High praise. Hallelujah. So we're thankful and grateful that we have that going for us today. Amen. As we get ready to transition, we're going to actually have Minister Shante again at the beginning of this month, tomorrow, and Minister Morel are going to join me. We'll do like a round robin discussion. So we're grateful and thankful and appreciative for them for stepping up for that. And so that should be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern New York time. So hopefully you're able to join us for that. And we're excited about that. So now that we've got everything up and running, once again, we give all praise and honor to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the honor of Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And today, once again, we're going into Psalm 131. So we're excited about that. We're grateful for an opportunity to go into this word again. We appreciate those who are listening in. We appreciate those who might be joining us for the first time. We thank the moderators. Moderators, do your thing. We really appreciate you, especially seeing what people have tried to do already to take us down on Kofi and the score 43. So we appreciate you so very much. And I really, really, really do thank you guys for your time today. How's everybody doing? I see Minister Sharon. I see, sorry. Okay, here we go. I see Keith, Nay, Cookie, just Deborah, Elion. Let's see, Kathleen, thanks for being part of the community. Sister Helen, Eugene from the D, how you doing? Sister Barbara on here, Sister Betty, Sister Sharice. Shalom to you. She's so Israel. Okay. Shalom, how you doing? Shalom to you, everybody. Jolene, is it Nanito Max? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not, but how you doing? Mark me, thanks for being part of the community. Hopefully I said that correctly. We appreciate everybody. Once again, Bakwada to everybody. Barak Allah at Sham Yachava. May the blessing of the Lord be upon you in the name or towards the name of Yahweh Alacham. I'm thankful and grateful to each and every one being on. Hey, how you doing, Yashir? And so we're going to get right into Psalm 130 to 131. So remember, this is the Song of Degrees series. And as we've been talking, the Song of Degrees series is literally supposed to be something that's taking us from Psalm 119, the Aleph bit, pushing us through Psalm 120 to Psalm 134, which is the 15 steps based off of the Aleph bit. And so I'll make mention in reference to some of these, but today we're going to be pretty much Today's pretty self-explanatory. We're gonna treat this as a launching pad today to be able to speak on higher things, including some of the stuff we talked about with the Honorable Maya last night and different things that are going on in the community. But really, Psalm 131 is extremely, now once again, this is the 12th step, recognizing this can mean kingdom, this can mean the sheep coming under a shepherd. This can mean teaching that's going forth, et cetera, right? This can mean direction being given. So in this 12th step that's supposed to be set in the temple, and nowadays we are the temple of the living Yah, right? So in this 12th step, Bakwad, how you doing? Bakwad time, Sister Shima, right? And so in all these different things, we want to make sure that we're there. And shalom to everybody. Shalom, Anai Kofi, ma shalom che, right? Hola, mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, ça va? Namaste, ni hao, osayu, ohayu, the list goes on and on. Aqua Abba, etese, Habari, Jambo, maybe Ni Kofi, Nina Faraka, Kutana Nawibi. Hello to everybody. Thanks for being on. So we're going to go to Psalm 131. If you have Psalm 131, just go ahead and put in the chat that say, I got it. Amen. Something along those lines. And if you got it, just let me know. Even if you're traveling and you're not able to go ahead and turn the scripture right now, go on your device, you can go ahead and just put I got it, in there, or speak I got it. If you can, we're going to start at Psalm 131. This is the 12th step. All right, I see I got it. I see one I got it. YouTube is breaking up bad. I apologize. I'm sorry. I don't know. I can't really do much about the signal from where I'm sitting. I apologize for that. You got it? All right, got it. Okay, cool. So we're going to what? Psalm 131. This is the what? 12th step in the Song of Degrees. We've gone from Psalm 120 to now Psalm 131, the 12th step. And the 12th step says this. It says, Yahweh, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. Neither do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me. Right? Caveat, too high for me. Surely I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. Let Israel hope in Yahweh from henceforth and forever. 12th step, establishment. Not even going extremely deep, having to go too profound, having to go through a whole bunch of stuff. How you doing, Libra Moon Grand Rising, or Libra Moon if it's Grand Rising, right? Like we don't have to go extremely deep into this, right? The author of this psalm is not even going that extremely deep. And the 12th step is establishment. It's establishment. And really that's what we need, right? Establishment of the kingdom. That's really what we're going to talk about today, in essence, right? We're going to bounce around a little bit, sure, and we can answer some questions, and we can go some different ways as we normally do. Thanks for being part of the community, blessed and basic. But if we were to be basic about it, right? If we were to take it to the thing, once again, this is the basics. We should have the Song of Degrees have been part of our childhood every day. And really, as our adulthood, as a refresher every once in a while, we should have known Psalm 119, the Aleph bit. And once we know the 22 characters of the Aleph bit, and we start learning these 15 steps in the Song of Degrees, now all of a sudden we get to a place where we've got the basics as far as this is the rhythm that we live in. This is the rhythm. This is the soul of our culture. This is the cultural aspect. This is what Yahweh means when he says, this is what our language means. This is what the characters, or what you call the letters, mean. All these different things, right? And so we have a very, very simple thing. Psalm 131, he says, Yahweh, straight up, Yahweh, my heart, my passion is not haughty. I'm not passionate about anything that's above what you want. I got into a place where I realized that I am in you and you are in me. And so why would I look outside of you? Because to look outside of you is to look outside of myself. Right? And hopefully you catch the context of that, because some of us are still in this mindset where we're trying to be deists. We're trying to become deities or spirits or whatever ourselves in a perverted manner, right? But he says, Yahweh, my heart is not haughty. I'm not worried about all this stuff, right? Nor mine eyes lofty. I don't want to look past what you see. I want to see your vision. I want to live your vision. I want my vision to encapsulate your vision, or to be encapsulated by your vision. Wow. I don't want anything else but you. I don't want to feel anything else but you, passion. I don't want to see anything else but you, or what you see. Neither do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me. In other words, it's not that I don't exercise myself in things that are great. It's not that I don't exercise my things that are high, right? But if it takes me outside of my position, humility is a huge problem for us. If it makes me to where I have to be greater than you, or I have to be the greatest, or I've got to be the man, I got to be the woman, I got to be the, if it's not mine, then it's not this. If people don't bow down to me, if they don't listen to me, if I'm not the God, well, he says, like, then I don't operate. That's too high for me, right? It's not that you can't operate in a high place, but there's certain things that might be a little too high, right? How you doing again, Sister Sharice? Right, there might be something that's a little too high for you. I don't operate in places that are too high for me. I'm okay with, this is the cap on where I'm supposed to be at this moment in my life. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? I'm all right with that. Right? I'm all right with that. And how you doing, Real Veteran? I'm all right with, there's a cap. Are you okay with whatever right now in your life? Are you, see, watch this. See, the cap doesn't always stay there, but before you try to break through the glass ceiling, have you gotten everything off of the level that you're supposed to be at right now? And this is speaking to Israel once again, right? So before we start jumping through all these things and jumping through all these hoops and telling everybody what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and how we're going to live and how I'm going to break through and I'm not going to be here forever and this and that, have you gotten all the nutrients from where you are right now? Right? If a sister is pregnant and she has a baby inside, the baby's going to get all the nutrients it needs that day. It's not going to say, you know what, I'm not going to be in my first trimester forever, so I'm going to try and start gaining and doing things for the second trimester. The baby doesn't comprehend that. The baby's body doesn't get that. The baby is trying its best to continue to extrapolate every single piece of nutrient that it needs for the level it's on so that it can get to the next trimester and then get next to the next trimester. And then once it's born, get everything out of the placenta. And then once the extension, the umbilical cord falls off, then, all right, let me go ahead. I don't know why I was about to call it extension cord. But then once the umbilical cord falls off, then it says, okay, now I got to get some nutrients from the breast milk. And then once it gets nutrients from the breast milk, it has to start being weaned so they can get nutrients from the actual food. Or not the actual food, but the solid food. Now, we got to get things in order before we go to the next echelon. And we're always looking at the next echelon, but are you getting everything? Everybody's so busy, no cap. No cap. Don't put no cap on me. You telling me that I got a cap on me. You lying, bro. You lying, sis. Like, are you getting everything where it's capped right now? How you doing, Ladybug? Thanks for being on. Right? Like my son. And thank you. What's that? U_I17. How you doing? My son is 7. There's a cap on what he's going to be doing right now. I expect him to read scripture, sure. I expect him to pray every day, sure. I expect him to do things on his YouTube channel, sure. But he's doing things on his level. And I want to make sure on his level, before everybody starts talking about they want him to read 12-year-old books and they want him to preach this and they want him to learn it and they want him to do this in the same manner that everybody else does in school. Do you know from our culture on your level, on your responsibility, have you got every single piece of nutrients that you're supposed to have spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, etc.? Have you gotten all of those things together before we take you to the next level? Because if not, you're going to just be somebody who gets a day older, but you won't have what you need. How you doing, Buck, in the system? And we got a lot of brothers and sisters today that get a day older, but don't have what they need. And before you know it, they are 40-year-old boys and 40-year-old girls out here. And of course, now they see themselves in line with 12-year-old boys and 12-year-old girls because they never extrapolated the nutrients that were necessary. Their brains did not develop. Their hearts did not develop. Their mind did not develop. How you doing, H-Honey? Their community did not develop. And so as these things did not develop, they are treating themselves sometimes even, can I be honest with you? I know this is a perverted topic, but let me just throw this in here. Holy Spirit just wanted me, because I've never seen this before. And she said, let's throw this in here real quick so y'all can chew on this a little bit in your own personal study. I'm not saying we should be forgiving, or we should be forgiven. I'm not saying we should allow this to happen, right? But I'm saying this. If somebody is messing with a little child as an adult, right? Some of these teachers, for example, they be messing with these students and say they fall in love. You know why this stuff happens? It's because the teacher doesn't see themselves as any more than the little child. Salah. How you doing? How you doing, Brother Tracy? How you doing, big brother Jermaine? Self-sabotage, stuff like that. Amen. Glad you talk. Glad you're on US 17. Thanks for being on with us. We appreciate your presence. Right. So I'm here to tell you, right, that's perverted. But what happens if you watch this, are a husband trying to marry a woman? Because a wife and a woman are different. Remember, in our culture, you got to be pre-qualified as a husband, pre-qualified as a wife. So what happens if you are dealing with this stuff? You're dealing with your wife or a woman, and she's not a wife yet. She's a little girl, but she's still a little girl because she's never been raised or secured or empowered to be something in your type of society. Right? What if you're a wife trying to marry a little boy, but you just think, oh, we walk down the aisle, he becomes a husband? No, he's still a little boy in mind, and you haven't even been trained how to make sure that you can vet him to see if he's worthy becoming your husband, because you're already a wife. And if he found you, then it means you should already be a wife when he found you. Are you articulate enough in the law? The law, once again, doesn't give rights, it protects rights. Are you articulate enough in the law to be able to protect him, to protect yourself, to protect even possible children from coming into a situation to where it will be the odds against them? Right? There's enough odds against us already than us bringing in children with further odds against them. Hallelujah. That's a word for somebody right there. Thank you, Nee. Appreciate it. That's something, right? So Psalm 131, Yahweh, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. I'm my passion. I don't need anything that you're not passionate about, because we on the same track. I don't need to see anything that you don't see, because you are the creator of heaven and earth. I need your vision anyways. Neither do I exercise myself great in matters, nor things too high for me. It's not that I can't be great, and it's not that I can't reach high places, but I'm okay with extrapolating everything on this step. Remember, this is the Song of Degrees, Psalm 120 to Psalm 134, or 15 steps you were supposed to be able to take, or at least articulate, or be able to feel, even in a figurative sense, a physical sense, etc. These are 15 steps we should be able to take through life. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. And yet we don't even have those basics, let alone the alphabet that came before it, 22 characters to help us to read the word, so that we are reading the word and reciting it. We even know what these 15 steps are. Hallelujah. Said chose to be a submissive wife to a little tantrum throwing boy, and it fell down. Okay. Amen. Right. And if that's the case, right, we made that choice. Also, too, once again, we got to ask. So if we made that choice, right, then the question, then now the next step is, did we learn from that choice? And will we make sure, whether it's married to Yahweh or married to anybody else, we will be in a position of wife, not just submit. Because to submit to a little boy is still submission. Wives don't submit to men. Wives submit to missions, right? So now that we've learned submitting to a man, or submitting to a male with a boy's mind, that's an adult, right? Now, what is the mission of the Most High? What am I doing as married to the Most High? And if the Most High allows me to have a physical marriage again, or if I decide to go through that again, because he's going to let you make the decision, are you going to be faithful to what he's given as far as this, right? Many of us have fallen in marriage. As a matter of fact, in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex, but we don't talk about that. And so, of course, these children are out here getting married to partner after partner after partner after partner after partner. And we're like, wow, why are these children out here doing that? Because we won't even speak up on it. Right? Your school talks to your children about sex from the time that they're in preschool. If you don't believe me, go ask your child, right? Well, not all states possibly, but a lot of states. Go ask your child if they're allowed to say they're a boy or a girl, or if they have to make sure that they, say pronouns, or if they have pronouns, are they allowed to even say anything about pronouns? That's teaching sexual behavior. I know you can say, oh no, it's teaching gender. Well, gender is the style of sex. Because sex is between husband and wife, male and female, right? But that's a culture. Every culture has a different style with their male and female. So if you're of Greek culture says that older men can mess with little boys, right? There are certain cultures out there that it's not the same gender. You think that gender can be whatever you want. Gender is based off of culture. So that's one of the reasons why the gender conversation has become hard in the United States corporation, is because it's not based off of anything. It's everybody saying, I want to be whatever I want. But that's not how gender works. Thank you for being part of the community, you, I-17, appreciate it. That's not how gender works. Amen. Led you to the Most High. And welcome back. How you doing, Prince? So So we have to realize that. Shalom, Dalayim, how you doing? So we have to realize and recognize like we're doing a lot of stuff that's not based off of kingdom. We're in the 12th step today, Psalm 131, and there's 12 step. Remember, it puts things in order. This is kingdom. This is leadership. This is governance. This is teaching. This is shepherd. This is sheep. Therefore, this is Yasda. And the first verse is teaching us that we need to put him first in everything. What's the second verse? Second verse of Psalm 131. It says, surely I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. Think about that. How you doing, growing low? Thanks for being on with us, right? Think about that. So I have become what? Israel, this is who it's talking about, right? If you haven't gotten that. But he says, surely, that means truly. He says, I've looked within myself, and I have behaved and quieted myself as a weaned child from his mother. In other words, I've gone through the culture. See, remember in our culture, first 3 years, or this is how it works. We work in threes. First time you can say, well, in 3 years, 9 months, but we work in threes, 7 times over to be able to make sure that a boy is raised to what he's supposed to. Our sisters are raised very similarly as well, right? But let me just go ahead, since this is a male writing this for us, and he says, I am weaned. Let's make sure that we get this together. So remember, the first set of years is ages 0 to 3. When I say 0 to 3, conception is where the being raised starts. And technically, right, the Most High says, I knew before you were formed in the belly, I knew you. I knew who you were. So even before the sperm and the egg met, the mother and father had to already be qualified as mother and father, husband and wife, adult male, adult female. That's the way it works in the culture. Hey, how you doing, Tony? Thanks for being on. So the first things first, we were already qualified. We were already being taught from birth. Right? Psalm 119, the Aleph Beit, these characters, Psalm 120 through 134, the 15 steps. We're on the 12th step, Psalm 131. And in this 12th step, this kingdom step, it says that I am like a child. Now that I've gotten to this place of development, I'm like a child. So what is this? Who's weaned? So ages 0 to 3, all you do is teach a boy in our culture. Guess what you teach them? All you teach them is that they're a boy. That's it. Right? Now, we can't even get that right because we're in somebody else's land, and therefore we're in the land of our captivity. But in our culture, first 3 years, you're just teaching them they're a boy. And that's a boy. That's it. That's what he is. That's who he is. That's what you do. These are boys' colors. This is what boys do. These are how boys play rough. It's okay. Right? Shalom. Thank you for being on. Tada, right? So we teach what? You are a boy. That's it. First 3, from 0 to 3, inside the womb even. We're speaking to you a certain way, doing certain things because children are already learning inside the womb. You are a boy. You are a boy. Right? This is something that people declare to be something that you shouldn't teach. But in our culture, no, that's completely different. Biblical culture, kingdom law, you teach them first 0 to 3, you're a boy. What do you do the next 3 years after that? Next 3 years, ages 4 to 6, you wean them from their mother. Now, somebody said, well, wean them from their mother at 4. Should they still be breastfeeding till they're 4 or 5 or 6? No, they can stop breastfeeding, but wean them, start having them to where they have love for mama and respect for mama. But there's certain things that they should be getting because as they get older, they're looking for the voice of their father. They're trained to be so. And so start making sure that you get them away from mama somewhat, because what's going to happen next is ages 7 to 9, they're going to be daddy's apprentice. Whatever daddy does, that's what they do. Grand rising to you, Sister Mary. Hopefully everything went well yesterday with you. And thank you for being on. Hopefully your healing continues, right? You said, indeed, teach them to be boys that will become men, right? So whatever daddy does, see, now once again, that's why sisters, stop getting married or stop having sex with or stop walking down the aisle with or stop trying to appreciate or get in the habit of being around adult males rather than husbands, because husbands have a mission. You're not supposed to be in submission, but you keep trying to submit to a man. No, you're supposed to be in submission, submit to a mission. See, if you get with a husband, when he's weaned from you, you won't mind the son going away from you. Why? Because it's okay, because his father, even though he'll come and he'll show love and he's going to do things, his father is going to teach him certain things about the mission being mission oriented, and his mission will include taking care of his own wife and taking care of your grandbabies, right? So what happens is you get with a man who's not qualified to be a husband, sometimes still even having the mindset of a little boy, and then trying to figure out, why is this not working? I can't believe it. All men are like this. No, all men who have no mission, especially a mission of the Most High, all of them are going to give you that. Of course, you are absolutely right in that. Right? How you doing, Dennis? Thanks for being on. Right? You are absolutely right that if you find a man with no mission, and you are in submission, therefore, because you can't be in submission if he lacks a mission, you are absolutely right. All men, so to speak, in that area, you know, Minister Shante, all men who act like that, they will all lead you down that path. I promise you, you are exactly right about that. I promise you, you are 100% right that if you keep looking for men and don't ask them missions, if you keep going on dates rather than requiring marriage, because in this right here, you've never read about a date, because people knew what a husband and wife was, and if a husband found a wife, the wife would turn around to see if he was in his work, and then they would have a discussion to see if what they were doing was going to fit each other forever, because they weren't looking for a good time, right? A good time, because a good time is going to be something that's going to come through a great marriage, and a great marriage is a great work. Do you know that your marriage requires work, by the way? You'd be surprised how many people think that, oh no, you know, we go through a date and this and that or whatever, and then it requires work, and then y'all get in a relationship and you're like, this is difficult. Well, you don't have the proper procedures in place. How you doing, Tone Johnson? You don't have the proper procedures in place. You don't have the proper mindset. We're not even doing certain things. We're not even discussing sex. You get in these dates, especially these Christian folk, right? Christian folk in these dates and on these Christian websites. And some of y'all outright freaks and stuff on these websites anyways. But those of you who are trying to hold it together, y'all get on here and won't even discuss the sex that you're going to have. And then you get in these relationships and you talk about, well, why is the sex not working? But you weren't even honest about that, right? And sex is supposed to be the thing that makes you want. In the physical. I know somebody don't want to hear, but you don't even talk about that. So if you won't talk about that, I know you ain't talking about, hey, do you have generational curses as far as like, you know, men to beat women? Because you don't look for marriage and stuff that you need to squat. Because see, if you got a generational curse, it might not be on your heart to do so, but I need to know what I'm in for. And so we need to pray about this, and we need to already have some things in place, because that generational curse shall not continue. Not with me. Do you have a generational curse to where women cuss out men in your family? Like, we need to have that conversation, because I don't see that in your heart and in your spirit. But because you're honest about it, and because of these things, you know what? Fine, we need to put some things in place. When we do life coaching or marital coaching, or even marital coaching before people get married and before they have the ceremony and everything, we actually have people write out a marriage constitution and write out amendments and write out all those things, because you need to have some stuff in there, because every marriage is going to have some different things. Right? Like, you got to be ready. Salah. You better be ready for these things, but we're not. So once again, going back to the men, to go back to the boy, how is he supposed to be raised? Right? Now you're doing it against Sister Helen. How is he supposed to be raised? He's supposed to be raised 0 to 3. He's a boy. Ages 4 to 6, he needs to be weaned from mama. Why? Ages 7 to 9, he needs to know the mission of a male, or the mission of an adult male, the mission of a father, the mission of a husband from his father. And he needs to have the same mission that his father does, because he's supposed to continue to work. Just like Yashva's stepfather, right? Joseph, or his father, he was a carpenter. So Yashva was a carpenter. Whatever your daddy did, boy, that's what you're going to do. It wasn't no problem with that. That's the way it was supposed to be. Right? Ages 10 to 12 after that, then you really, really dive deep into a whole bunch of new stuff educationally, right? They tell you learn all the stuff, preschool stuff like that. The preschool stuff isn't even school stuff. It's stuff that you can teach. Preschool, elementary school stuff, even junior high school stuff for a little bit. That's stuff that you can learn just around the way. Like, you can go to a library and learn that. You can learn that just by doing things every day, right? But you need to know what it is that you're headed towards first. Then we'll school you according to what you're going to be. By the way, even if you go to Europe, a lot of people who are in America don't know this, right? Even in other places in the world too. I think in Africa, they don't teach like this as well. But you go to Europe, and in Europe, they want to know what you want to be. If you say you're going to be a dancer, then they'll teach you, you'll go to dance classes. You'll also learn other things along the way, but you're gonna go to dance class if you're called to be a dancer. If you're going to be a speaker, you're going to go to speech class your whole life. And then you're going to take other classes to supplement what you need in speech. If you're going to be a doctor, then you're going to go and take things as far as medicine your entire life, and then they'll supplement whatever else it is that's necessary to help you in medicine. But doctors don't need to know, the square root of this in pre-calculus. Not necessarily. They might learn it, but they don't necessarily need to know that because it's not important to them being a doctor. But you're put in a system where you're seeing that they won't even do it. Like you used to have trade schools. Now they're taking away your trades in high school. And you got to hope that you can afford now something to where you probably could have left high school with that trade and then got OJT, got on the job training, right? That's what it's supposed to be with your boys, ages 10 to 12. You're already getting them say they've already been trained by daddy, ages 7 to 9. Now you're just supplementing what's necessary for them to be great within that trade. You said if a man doesn't have a boy but has a girl, should he teach her to continue his work in the mission? I believe definitely he should make sure that he puts some of that in. However, if you don't have a boy, there's certain things that you'll still be able to do for your girl. And your girl, like a lot of girls still do things that their fathers do, but she's not going to be executing certain things that you do, just culturally speaking. So like, for example, I don't know what father, like if you are somebody that's like on an oil rig, is there a woman out there that does the same stuff that a man does on an oil rig? Sure, I guess, but that's not something I necessarily want from her. But so if I get an oil rig, business going and we're making millions, hundreds of millions, whatever, would I have her start the same way I did and be an apprentice in that manner? Probably not. But might she work in the office? Sure. Might she make sure that she, takes care of things? Sure. Like, might I still pass that same thing to her as well? But see, once again, if you like, let me finish it because it'll actually make a little more sense at the end, if you don't mind. And I'm not saying you aren't. I'm just saying I realize that I'm probably going to answer your question a little bit, right? So ages 10 to 12, you supplement what it is that they need. Ages 13 to 15, what do you do after that? Ages 13 to 15, now we're going to train you on what it is to be an adult male. In our culture, I know there's somebody that's going to have a problem with me using the term male. This is not everybody's culture. So in our culture, in our tribe, and what we do as a people, okay? I'm not saying everybody else, I'm saying what we do, which hopefully can be understood and respected, just like we should respect others. In our tribe and in our culture, hey, Grand Rising to you, Bakwa Top, how you doing? So in our culture, we make it a point that then ages 13 to 15, our boys are going to be raised to be adult males. And they'll become, what we might call men, but adult males, right? So these men, they've been ages 0 to 3, they've been taught they're a boy. Ages 4 to 6, they were weaned from mama. We can't have you be a mama's boy. Ages 7 to 9, you become an apprentice. Whatever your father does, you must do. Ages 10 to 12, we make sure we supplement your education. Whatever you didn't get from daddy, we make sure that you get from other places to ensure that you are whole, especially in what your call is. You are a puzzle piece. You're not the whole thing, but you need to be great within your place, right? Like we talked about, that even if there's a cap from where I am right now, can you extrapolate everything, all nutrients from where you are on this part of the journey? Thanks for being part of the communities at Seaport. Appreciate it. And Mrs. Reed, hello, how you doing? Right, and then ages 13 to 15, then we teach you and train you on what it is to be an adult male in our culture. Culturally, what is it to be an adult male, right? David was made king. David, whose name means beloved, Dalet Vav Dalet, his name means beloved. King David, King David was about 15 years old. Did y'all know that when he got ordained to be king? He didn't become king until later, into his 20s, right? But some would even argue closer to 30, which would make sense because age 30, if you look at it, age 30 is actually, when you become a rabbi. So you have like a lot of these brothers out here, a lot of these sisters out here trying to talk about that they should be rabbis out here, leaders and things like that. But in our culture, you're not even supposed to be a rabbi till you're 30. See, there's a cult, there's a structure to it, there's an order to it. That's why Yashua doesn't get baptized till he's 30, because he's not supposed to start until he's 30. You said, is that the book you should go pick up? I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, thank you for saying that. I actually meant to say that earlier. I'm only talking about the kingdom of Yahweh. I picked this because of the picture. I read little excerpts of it, but I'm not sure what the thing is. It seems like it might be talking about Israel because of the title, But I don't know. So I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm not telling you go read the book, go find it. I'm gonna read it myself since I obviously picked it. I need to make sure I read it in case somebody has some questions and be like, why y'all put this book up? But I'm being honest with you. I didn't pick the book because it's a must read. I picked the book because I was trying to get you to see the theme of Psalm 131, and I couldn't really get anything that actually would fit our screen because the way TikTok works. As soon as I try to bring a picture before you guys, it blows it up. So if I have a picture I want to use, it won't even let me use certain ones because it'll take the everything and expand it. So I do apologize for any I do apologize for any confusion. I'm glad it was brought up. But yeah, so we missed it. So then the husband, or we teach him how to be a man, and we do what's called a bar mitzvah, or what we call a bar mitzvah. We do that in when they're 15. Interestingly enough, how many steps of degrees are there? There's 15 steps, right? Interestingly enough, 15 steps in the Song of Degrees. And then when they become 15 years old, we say, okay, right? So Psalm 120 to Psalm 134 requirements to be able to make sure he should be able to bare minimum know his alphabet. Psalm 119, 22 characters. He should know his Song of Degrees, Psalm 120 through Psalm 134. And then he should be able to go ahead and other questions that we might ask. Hey, what is it that we expect from husbands? What is it that we expect in our culture? What are you supposed to do? If your father were to pass away, if you're the oldest, what is required of thee? Can you quote Deuteronomy 28, verse 68? Can you quote Barashat Aleph at Chet? Can you quote Shamat Aleph Aleph? Can you quote Yochanan Aleph Aleph? Can you quote Barashat Aleph at Aleph? Can you quote these scriptures? Right? Some of us don't know what I'm saying. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. John chapter 1, verse 1. Deuteronomy chapter 26, Deuteronomy 26. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. Genesis chapter 1, verse 8. Can you tell me why it's important that we know who Israel is in Revelation chapter 7, verse 4? Can you tell me what's going on in Revelation chapter 12? Can you tell me what's happening in Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15? Can you tell me what's happening in Revelation chapter 2, verse 5, Revelation 2, 9, Revelation 2, 6, Revelation 2, 9, Revelation 2, 15, Revelation 3, 7 through 9. Can you extrapolate? Can you get all the nutrients from where you are? See, we were focused on making sure that we got everything in you and making sure that even your culture, your savant, your knowledge of the scrolls, that you're obedient already. And do you guys know that even now, this is something that I don't think it's not even mentioned that it was done. So I think it's just something that was there for a threat, but maybe it was done. I don't know. But do you know that it was actually culturally appropriate, so to speak? It was something that was at least put out there kind of as like a boogeyman type thing, where like if you by age 12 didn't respond to your father's teaching, to your mother's teaching, to your family's teaching, to your culture's teaching, and you decided you were going to do whatever you wanted, by age 12, they would bring you before a council to see if you even could start the training to become a man or an adult male. And when they did, and if you failed, technically, like if your father was like, look, man, I don't think he's ready. He ain't listening. He ain't doing this. They would actually like act like they were going to stone you to scare the child. Some people say they did. We haven't found any reference points that we can read or identify with that. Right? Well, a lot of people don't know that there's a Vav, but Vav would sound like Va. But we do Yahweh because of people get into W or W. W is two V's, but why would we have two V's when we don't have two V's in the language? We don't have a Vav. It's not Yahavav. There are some Yahavavs now, but Yahavav is talking about a soul, right? It's closer to Nachavash than it is Yahavach. But once again, people don't realize what those terms are, right? So, but you see what I'm saying? Like we are lacking certain things. So it was important that you were even ready to go through the training for being a man, because to be a man is important. It's an important role, right? And then you hit age 15, that's when you have the bar mitzvah or the bar mitzvah. And then from there, then you go to age 16 to 18. Age 16 to 18, now that we know that you're ready for manhood, we teach you what it is to be a husband. And we also teach you what it is to love a wife. And then ages 19 to 21, we teach you what it is to be a father. Then we give you your inheritance. See how some of these stories start to make more sense. So you've read or heard of, more than likely, in the Word of Yahweh, it talks about how there was the prodigal son. He wants his money. He says, "Give me my inheritance." He's not really ready for it, but the father goes ahead and says, "Okay, if you want it early, go." And he messes up. Why did he mess up? He messed up because you're not supposed to get that till you're 21. You're supposed to be fully trained. And then if we see you're ready for the inheritance, we give it to you and say, "Go make us proud." And especially even if you're going to be a rabbi, you got to age 30 to become a rabbi. And in between there, or even after that, if you find a wife, you find a great thing and you obtain favor from Adon, but you have to be trained on being ready for such things. And what's happening right now is we just throwing people out there. Go get it. Go get it. Go get married. Go have sex. Go have this many babies. Go be a great daddy. Go do this. Go do that. Go be a teacher. You got so many people out there. And look, I got much love from everybody, but I'm telling you, the best people that are going to teach you are not going to be 20-something-year-olds. Right? People in high school talking about, I'm 18 and she's 17 and we're going to be together forever or whatever. Like he's not even trained. A lot of them, they're not even training them how to be husbands. He's not even trained. Even if you train him how to be a husband, he's not even trained yet to be a father. You need to give him 3 more years before you even talking about till death do his part. So right now, what you're doing is you're dating. You're in a dangerous place. Yeah, we're all over the place. We're lawless. Once again, laws don't give rights. Laws protect rights. Hello, blessed to you. Thank you for being on. Appreciate you, right? On this rising, grand rising, everybody. So we have this wild mindset going on. We're listening to so many different things that have nothing to do with our culture, have nothing to do with ourselves, have nothing to do with success. By the way, how can you be a success and you don't have a successor? Question. Somebody help me with that. How you doing, Carla? Thanks for being on. Somebody help me. How can I be a success and I have no successor? You have no succession plan. You have nobody who's coming behind you that can take this to the next level. You're not building a culture. How do you become a success without a successor? It's like when people say, don't have a victim mentality. You can't have a victim without having a victor. What are you talking about? So if you have a victor, the victor created the victim. So if you're the victor, why not ask yourself why you keep creating victims and how you can stop creating victims and make sure that there's no victor and that everybody is free, right? We need to know etymology. How you doing, Brother TJ? So once again, how are you going to be a success without a successor? Who's your successor? Well, I have a child. Is that child trained? I think people said TD Jake's successor was supposed to be Sarita Jakes. I guess. But I'm being honest with you. Like the apple fell far from the tree as far as she's not putting in the work. I'm not saying she can't become. I'm not saying because she's a woman. I'm talking about it's apparent. If you're somebody who teaches and preaches, if you're somebody who's putting in work, I'm telling you, she ain't studying. She's studying enough to give a word, but she ain't studied, at least not like her father was. Maybe I don't know. I'll be a little lighter with that. I apologize. Maybe that's a little much. But look, somebody who studies and takes this thing seriously, there's a difference. I'm not saying that she can't be the successor. I'm glad she is, but there's got to be some training. I'm not saying that because she got a divorce, she can't do so. But hey, if you got a divorce, what you going to teach us about marriage? If every time I hear her speak about marriage, her whole thing about marriage is, hey, you know what? I made it through this bad one. Like, okay, that's nice and everything, but we need to know how to make it to where we don't have a bad one and how we don't have multiple. We want just one. How you doing, Ms. Matt? Hallelujah. I'm just saying, we want just one. I'm not trying to down anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm just being honest with you. How do you have a success if you have no successors? How do you call yourself a success without a successor? It's because we don't know any better. Really. If we knew better, we would stop using such terms. I'm sorry. I'm not saying Sarita. I'm not Sarita. Sarita's the wife. What's her name? I'm sorry. Sarah. I'm messing up the name. But whomever it is, I'm not trying to say she has no skills, she has no ability. I'm saying she better make sure that this succession thing is more serious. Right? You're taking on, once again, see, it's cultural. You're taking on what your parents laid down. Honor your mother and father. It's what guarantees a longer life. Well, if I'm going to take on what the succession plan is, then I need to honor it and I need to take it to the next level. Because Yeshua even said, if I'm a disciple of somebody before me, then greater things should I do. I should be doing things greater than the person that came before me. There should be a greatness on you that's greater than whoever you hear what I'm saying? It is my goal and opportunity to make sure that my wife, Elder Maya, shall be greater at certain things than I am at what I do. It is my goal. I am excited to know that if Minister Tamara or Minister Shante or Minister Kevin or many different ministers on the roster, right? I am excited that someday, if they will follow the succession plan, right? As long as they're attached to SOC. Now, if they're not always attached to SOC, hey, wherever the Most High takes you, right? But prayerfully, you with us as long as you shall live. I'm selfish like that. But he might need you to go and do something for somebody else, of course, right? But whatever it is that he has you do, I can't wait to see you be greater. I can't wait to see you reach more people if that's what it is, or to feed more people if that's what it is, or to put clothes on more people if that's what it is. We have a lot of different things that we're already doing. So if I'm going to be a success, I need to look at the gifts of these successors and I need to say, how can they become greater? Every person who's on here, I need to figure that out. How can you become greater? How can you learn something? Can you give me some things that make me study? See, that's a success. That's a succession plan. Right, and you got to be in tune with the succession plan of whoever it is. Your parent, your spouse. Your spouse should be trying to get you to be greater than them too. It should be a contest. See, we got all these contests between our spouse. How about this? Have a contest with your spouse. How can I serve and make you greater than I am? Because watch this. I'm not gonna stop pushing. Right? If you with SOC, I'm gonna keep getting better every day. I'm gonna keep putting in work. I'm gonna keep grinding. When it comes, especially to the teaching aspect, but even when it coming down to the environment and coming to make sure people are in certain places and trying to make sure communication is there and trying to teach and do all this stuff, I'm getting better at all these different things. Even if it's slowly but surely, I am getting better. Right? So if you're gonna be around, like, you're gonna have to push, because I'm gonna be pushing. You're gonna have to press, because I'm gonna be pressing. Right? But at some point, I should be able to look. And when I look over, instead of looking over my shoulder, at some point I should see you beside me. And at some point, certain things I should see you are now taking the lead. You said you asked your husband that yesterday. Hey, like, these are things that are real, right? We are establishing kingdom. This is Psalm 131, the 12th step. So back to Psalm 131, verse 2. Surely I had behaved and quieted myself. I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. So that's why we went through that. Once again, the second set of three, right? The second set of three, if you will. Ages 4 to 6, you wean them so that they can be what? You wean the child so that the child can become the apprentice. You have to wean the child so that the child might become an apprentice. You have to wean the child so that the child might become an apprentice. Right? You have to be weaned of some things. See, your mother that you've been looking for, that you've been listening to, right? She got you to a certain place. This world, the system that we've in, it got to a certain place. We were born and shaped in iniquity. And that's okay. It got you to a certain place. But there comes a place where now we got to wean you from some things, because you got to take on the will of the Father. You catch the reference now? You catch the reference now? See, it's all this stuff is all fine and well, but at some point we got to wean. See, you were raised and shaped in iniquity, in the womb of iniquity, right? You were supposed to be shaped in Israel, but Israel didn't have a hold on you, because Israel, we got all over the place. We got out of pocket. We got scattered. We got about everybody else's will, everybody else's business. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. We're not following laws. We're not following biblical law. We're not showing laws of equity. We're not teaching these things. We're not talking about sex from the pulpit or anything like that. We gotten away from it to where you'll send your child. Thanks for being on, Andre. You'll send your child to school and learn about sex, but you won't make sure that they learn about sex in the kingdom. You think the kingdom doesn't care about sex? You think the kingdom has nothing to do with sex? And how you doing, boy? I don't know how boy one. Boilder. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but thanks for being on and be a part of the community. You see what I'm saying? And how you doing, Marky Sheriff? Thanks for sharing. Like we have this mindset, right? We have this off mindset. We have this wild mindset that's saying that we're supposed to like not teach these things, but then when we start falling because we don't teach them. How you doing, Sister Kendra? When we don't teach these things, we say, I don't know what's going on with my family. Right? It doesn't make sense. I don't know what's going on with my children. I mean, I taught them the word. What was the word you taught them about sex? Did y'all have discussions about it? Not just don't have it until you're married, but did you ever teach them that sex is marriage and marriage is sex? Everybody you lay down with the Most High, He's looking for you to treat them like a wife or a husband for the rest of your life. Hello, Beverly. How you doing? Shalom. And how you doing? Is it will skills? Will skills? Thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate it. Right? What did you do to set up the kingdom? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against origin. What did you teach them about their original self, the origin of life? Sorry, we're going to lose you guys on TikTok for a second. Right? But it's important, right? We got to teach them about origin, kingdom origin. Where did you come from? What did you do? Who did you come from? Not even where did you come from? Who did you come from? Right? Why is it so important about virginity and chasteness? Don't just tell them be chaste. Why is it important? What happens to your body every time you have sex with a new partner? Right? Like teach those things. What does the word know in the Bible mean? K-N-O-W. Teach those things. Right? Why develop a society? Tell your children we're trying to develop a society to where you don't have to go around it every day. When they say, Mom, Dad, why aren't you going and doing everybody else? Why are you always hustling? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you making sure that you got a 9 to 5 thing? I'm trying to separate myself because I don't want to deal with benefits and privileges from the system. I want you to be benefit and privilege free so that you can be tax free for the rest of your life. These are things that should have been there from the beginning. Establishing kingdom, establishing community, establishing order. It's always interesting. I always hear people talking about order and structure, but you look at their lives, there's zero order and structure. How you doing, Tavares? Right? It's always interesting. People got so much to talk about, order and structure, but I look at their lives and I can't see any. I be looking. And people get frustrated with you. See, that's what you got to realize. You got to press past the kingdom. You hear what I'm saying? You got to press past the kingdom. Press past the kingdom, press past the world, press into the kingdom, and use the kingdom to press, and use it as a buffer, use the law to create a buffer, to create a hedge of protection around it. You know? Like, there will be people that will get frustrated and upset with me because I'll say, we need to be here, and we can do this, and we can do it by this day at a certain time. And we'll tell you, well, we don't need to worry about this. And if I'm a little, like people do that at jobs, well-paying jobs and stuff too, but they get away with it. And in the world, the world will be like, okay, but even in the world, they look for order and structure. But hey, I've done this. I've been here this long. They let me come in whenever I feel like doing. I was able to create a business with doing whatever I want, even if I do. But it's like, but how many people did you lose along the way because you couldn't be on time? And how many people are frustrated because you keep promising something, but you're never on time? I can understand every once in a while we miss a mark. I do that all the time, every once in a while. But you are consistently missing the mark. Like every day you can't be on time. Every day you can't stop cussing. Every day, like you keep making, like, you see what I'm saying? But guess what? We should be weaned as a child and even behave as a child that's weaned of his mother. Some of the things that we are keeping up, Israel, some of the things that we're keeping up, husbands, some of the things we're keeping up, wives, some of the things we're keeping up, business owners, are things that children that are weaned from their mother by the age of 7, they don't even do those things anymore. But you do them. Right? Like some of the things that you're doing, your children stopped doing when they were 7, and they go back to doing them because they act one way in front of you, but they say, hey, if daddy ain't gonna do no better, if mama ain't gonna do no better, then by the shoot, when I go ahead and become an adult, I'm gonna just do whatever I feel like doing. And they go right back to doing the stuff. So you be thinking like about age 7 for me, is where like, probably age 5 or age 6 too, to be honest with you. But about age 7 for me is when it was like, you know what? Like, okay, I'll act this way at home, right? And I'll be really great at home. But then when it's time to be around the boys, like we're gonna wild out. Ouch, amen. I hear you, Sister Deja, right? But we should be weak, but we act worse than the little children do. Little children have more faith at age 7 than you have as an adult. You know why? Because if you teach a little child, my son, we talked about this last night, my son, teach a little child that they're not supposed to celebrate Christmas. They were out there at a playground that we normally go to. We were actually traveling a little bit yesterday, but we hit a playground that we frequent, at least used to frequent a lot more, frequently go to a lot more. And went there, and every year in that park, they really do it huge for Christmas. And this year, they really went over the top. I guess they hired a bunch of people, or maybe it was the community, I don't know, but they came out there dressed as fairies and elves and all this stuff or whatever. And one of the fairies tried to come up to my son, because they had little children and stuff trying to sing Christmas songs and do all this stuff or whatever. And my son literally put his hand up in the air. It was like, just straight up, like that. Like, didn't even think twice, just that was his reaction. I wish that's something that could have been a meme. Wish I caught that, right? He was just straight, right? Because it's not something that's cultural, right? At 7, he does that. But there's a lot of adults on here that'll be like, praise y'all, and we do this and we do that or whatever. And I catch you around Christmas or doing this or whatever, and you got the Christmas tree and you got the antlers on. It's one thing because people be trying to even hit you with the, well, I just want to be around my family. Okay, I get that and everything. However, like the antlers and the Santa Claus hat and you singing the Christmas carols and you wearing the red and the green. And after a while, it's like, well, what we doing here? Like after a while, you might as well just be in Saturnalia full regalia. But you try to temper it. Oh, no. I'm just here, because of this. And since I'm here, I don't want to be a party pooper and blah, blah. Why do you need that party in your life? Why do you need to see? Watch this. The word party, you think that means fun. The word party means a group of people. It's not the party that you're worried about. You're worried about being accepted by the people. Yeah, Solomon was not having it. He said, straight. He gave him, I don't want to know why. He said, straight. I said, okay, sir. You know how people be like excited about their children when they play football or something, and they be like, let's go. Right? When I heard, when I got that image in my head, that's what I was, you can't yell that or whatever, in front of people like that or whatever, because people, that's what gives me the let's go moments. See that? Yeah, let's go, son. Yeah, they can't just walk up to you like that, talking about Merry Christmas. Like a father would be like, let's go, catch it. Yeah, caught, touchdown. That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what I be feeling in that moment. That's how I be feeling. That's how I size the head up. I size their head up on that. Size their head up, if you don't know, means I, give them encouragement. Right? But that's what be getting me. That's what gets me to put up the sign in the crowd. Yeah, that's my son right there. You see how he stiff-armed that elf over there? She tried to come up and he hit her with the stiff arm and shook the head at it and gave it a matumbo. Right? Like that's what I be cheering about. Because that's his calling. That's what he's going to succeed in. Right? At the time he's weaned, he's already been trained enough to say no. This is the problem we're having culturally. Right? Mission accomplished on that level, right? He's extrapolating everything on that level that he can. Let's get everything in there. Goal, right? Yeah, let's get all that stuff in there right then. That's the exciting part, because that's the calling. I'm not saying who knows if he does something in sports or something like that, but I know he's going to carry on what his father does, because I'm not a success unless I have a successor. And so just as a weaned child, that's how we should be acting, Israel. That's why the word says, suffer the little children that they should come. Yahshua said that, right? Be careful you don't become a stumbling block to the little children, right? It says things like that. Have the faith of a little child, right? Isn't that interesting that little children, even if you do not have never shown the ability to be able to provide such things, little children will always expect these great gifts from you. Have you ever noticed that? That little children will always expect these great gifts from you. Hallelujah, right? Well, always. Little girls will ask you for stuff like ponies. You like, what in the pony? We still live in a 1-bedroom apartment, 3 children in the bedroom, and I'm sleeping on the couch. But they're still in their mind, hey, because you're my father, because you're my parent, because You are all I know. I have to ask the one that I know. They have faith. You have a father who owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills, but you're afraid to ask him for stuff. I already asked specifically, especially right now because we're going through a lot. And just like y'all, we got bills and stuff, and these months are usually slow months for us, to pick up into going into next year. So just like you guys go through stuff, we go through ebbs and flows as far as financial things and things like that, and bills to the crew and all these different things. And we're trying to take care of a bunch of stuff for the house and all this stuff. So it's been a struggle for us too. I get it. Right, I'm not going to deny that it hasn't been a struggle at all. But we praise y'all. And even it's been a struggle for SOC. We've been slowly getting ourselves together. Y'all see, we're building this up together. We're actually trying to put the package together so that you guys will see exactly what it's going to look for, what you're going to see when you open up your package for your tassels and things like that. So we're working diligently to get this stuff together. We're getting the ministerial staff in order. We're getting Women in Red in order. We're getting Watch Night Service in order. We're trying to still get God's Land Project 83. We haven't forgot about multiple things. We're still making sure that people are eating, coat drives, all these different things that are going on, right? And thank you for the love, appreciate it, right? So we're working on all those things, but I'm saying all that to say that even in that, I have childlike faith. I'm an adult, and at the same time, because of eternity, I'm still a child. And so the same way that I used to call upon my father and be like, hey, is it possible to get that, is it possible to get that SNES? Is it possible to get that Nintendo, right? Is it possible to get those shoes? Never really had. I think I had one pair of shoes that were like $100 and something shoes, and got them and wore them, and then realized, they don't do nothing because I didn't have enough money to have these rotating shoes. So when I got the shoes, and I played some ball in them one time or whatever, like, what was the point of having them, right? But I got that childlike faith now with my father that says, all right, it doesn't seem like I'll be able to cover all the expenses, but I'm just going to ask you, this is what I need, not only for the rest of this year, but SOC, we require, like if SOC is going to do what's necessary, then all of us require this much and this much. If we're going to meet the standard of getting the land as soon as possible, and I would like it to be at the beginning of this year, y'all, but if it's not going to be at the beginning of this year, then hopefully it'll be by the end of this year. But if we're going to do what's possible, we're going to work out this, and we're going to go to all these communities and colleges, and we've been going to all these people now, we've been doing fundraising on high levels and things like that. I don't know, somebody, okay, are you guys hearing something? Oh, you guys are hearing something playing in the background? I don't know. Hold on one second. Is it gone? Is it gone now? All right, is it gone now? Was it there the whole time, by the way? Probably only could hear it on TikTok. I think YouTube was trying to play something. I didn't check to see if YouTube was on there. I just basically I just swiped YouTube off. So if it was, I apologize. Oh, okay. It must have just started up. But yeah, for about 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I did not know. But yeah, so if you, yeah, so where was I at? Oh yeah, the faith of a child. So I asked with the faith of a child. I say, and thank you for bringing it up. I ask my father for what's needed. I don't know how it's going to come. I be telling y'all don't be believing me. I don't do a 9 to 5. This is what I do, and extend it into helping people, talking to people, calling people, visiting people, etc. But this is what I do. This is it. It's not a 9 to 5. It's a every moment thing. And so even in that, I have the faith of a child. I have there's nothing if he don't like the situation I'm in, and this is often happens to me because this is how we decided to live. And I'm not saying we don't ever save any money or invest anything, but the situation I'm in a lot of times gets to a point where it's like, look, if you don't do this, I don't know how it's going to happen. Right. And then I have to ask my father, I ask you, I even ask you again in front of all these witnesses, that you prove this day why your glory is there. I cannot do these things. I can't continue to do this. I'm not able to do this on my own, but you are the one who made heaven and earth, right? And I thank you in advance for what you're doing. In Yahweh's name, I'm up. That's what he did, by the way, when he went to Lazarus. Did he not? That's what he did when he went to Lazarus. You hear what I'm saying? When he went to Lazarus, what did he do? I'm so glad that y'all get to see what's about to happen. And he spoke and he prayed in front of everybody and said, the reason Lazarus died is so that it'll be for your glory. And then he put it on. He put it on the Most High and said, look, all I'm being to do is being faithful to what you told me to do. I didn't show up until this time because you told me not to show up. I told Mary that I am the resurrection, or I told Martha, which one was it, Mary? Martha, I think it was Mary. I told her I am the resurrection because that's what you called me to be. I have childlike faith. I'm the son of the Most High. I have childlike faith. I am a son of Elohim as well. I have childlike faith. I'm a fellow heir to his riches. I have childlike faith. And if I'm doing what I'm called to do, if I'm executing how I'm called to execute, if I'm treating my family the way I'm supposed to, if I'm loving my wife and securing her the way she's supposed to be, then there should be some benefits and privileges that come from that system. See, I don't ask for benefits or privileges from the United States corporation, so there's got to be some benefits or privileges coming from somewhere else. Right? And so at this point now, I've said what it is. At this point, it's on him to simply be my father because his child in childlike faith reached out and said, I believe. He's going to take care of the rest. I don't know how he's going to take care. I don't know when he's going to take care. I don't know if he'll use a person. I don't know if he'll use something that I have. I don't know if he'll help me to sell something, whatever. I'm just trying to tell you, I have the childlike faith. I have to live in that every day. In order to be his child, I've got to have childlike faith because I have to live in faith. And then I've got to work what I have faith in as a child because faith without works is dead. And it's amazing how many 7-year-olds have a better context of faith than a lot of 47-year-olds, right? 47-year-old loses their mind. How am I going to pay this bill? What if they up me or whatever? What if they out me? You know, if a 7-year-old ends up having to leave and ends up living in the car, that's just what we got to do. But mom and daddy, they take care of us. So, hey, if I got to go to school every day and then come back and we get to sleep in the van and that's what we do or whatever, that's just how we do it. But I have faith that I'm going to get up the next day and still eat and still go to school and still learn. And guess what? I'm going to still grow. And at some point, I'll get another place to live. And then that place will turn into a bigger place. And then eventually as an adult, I'll be able to do some things on my own. That's all they do. They don't have a thing that says, my life is going to fall apart if I don't do this, right? But they look for order and structure. At 7 years old, they're already an apprentice. Whatever mom and daddy do, that's what I do. And a lot of our children, they're not getting that. A lot of our children, we're so messed up with non-childlike faith. They're learning as apprentices now of your non-childlike faith to say, oh, I shouldn't even do what a child should do. It's a child's place to dream. That's a word right there for somebody. It's a child's place to dream. It is a child's place that I will become the first person in my family too. So they come to you, mama, I'm gonna be the first person in my family to do with it. Boy, if you don't just shut up and take that garbage out, I got time to worry about that right now. No, it is a child's place to dream. I'm gonna be the first person in my family to break this generational curse. Curse, you just like your daddy and blah, blah. You speaking the curse on, shut up. It is a child's place to dream. And I mean that in the name of Yahweh, right? Acham Yahweh. I proclaim that over you. Shut up. Your child is telling you that they are going to break the curse and you can't hear it because you're so busy in your non-childlike faith. They are supposed to have visions of breaking cycles, of taking whatever you do. Mama, you know the way that you cook that? I'm going to cook that and I'm going to cook it so well, I'm going to cook it for a bunch of people all the time. Yeah, she's saying, I'm going to take what you're doing, it's going to become a business. She's telling you the dream. She's telling you the vision. She's expanding upon it. She's supposed to be greater. Some of us be jealous of our own children, our own family, truth be told. So still struggling with that, but getting better at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, stay in the child's place. Yeah, let them dream. Let them stay in their place. Now, guide them well, right? But guide them correctly in reality, but still guide their dreams, guide them and let them keep their dreams. Because guess what? Their dreams shall manifest into reality. Their dreams are the faith portion. Hear what I'm saying? It's somebody who interprets dreams. That's a gift that I've been given. Guide the faith portion. Hear what I'm saying? Guide the faith portion, the dream, through the reality, the works, that the manifestation might show up. Baby boy says, I want to be a fighter. Now, if your family's really in order, this is the way that it works. Baby boy says, I'm going to be a fighter. Look at what daddy does. Now, is daddy a lawyer? Let's just give an example. I'm just arbitrarily, or really, I'm following the Holy Spirit, really. Daddy's a lawyer? Okay, maybe he's going to fight for the people. Take that fighter's heart. Maybe even train him in the gym and do things, but keep that book in front of him. Keep daddy training him so that when he gets to a certain age, he wants to fight for his people. And he knows how to do it because the dream and the works came together to become the manifestation that you would be in accordance with the law. Grand Rising Masia. Bakwada time to everybody. Right? You said, wow, when you were 7, your mother and father were not around. You had so many worries about them. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's a lot of us because of the system we're in. Right? We have been we've been caged, the caged birds, right? Why do the caged birds sing? We've lived lives to where we were caged up the whole time. You said you lived, and the people you live with didn't always have a child's best interest at heart. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of people don't have people's best interest at heart. Right? And how you doing, Roll Tide? Thanks for being on. A lot of people don't have people's best interest at heart, if we be honest with you. So if somebody's going to have a child's best interest at heart, but they don't even have people's best interest at heart, of course we're going to have a problem. Because a child is going to become the next generation of people. And see, here's the deal. The world wants you to believe that it's getting better and better, but really it's getting worse and worse. It's getting further from its origin. When something gets further from its origin, you have to realize that it gets more perverted. If you have a copy of something, the original looks the best. The copy of the original, you're hoping looks great for a copy, but it will still not be the original. The copy of the copy is going to lose something. Now imagine having 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 1,000,000, 100 million, 1 billion, several billion copies. And thank you for the love, appreciate it. Several billion copies of something. And each copy nowadays is trying to tell you that you're supposed to listen to their truth as if 7 billion truths exist at the same time. No establishment, no order. 7-year-old in our culture especially doesn't think like that. What is established at the house? What is in your house? So behave yourself and quiet yourself as a child that is weaned. Even your nachavash or even your sakeh, your soul, even your soul should behave and quiet itself. Your psychology, the soul of your people needs to behave. What are we doing as a people to behave ourselves? Have you noticed that's a problem with us? We want to put up people that misbehave. Misbehavior has become the new norm. Hey, it's babe, Beyonce. She can do whatever she wants. Y'all can't say nothing about Beyonce, this and that, or whatever, right? Y'all got mad when people came out and said that she was wrong for that church girl song, and she sure was. But she's allowed because y'all say she made enough money and she made y'all have enough feel goods, or because she danced a certain way, or because she got the right skin, or blah, blah, whatever. She's allowed to go ahead and misbehave. And if you don't let her misbehave, you are slut shaming. You are a hater. You are the problem with society. You're not loving them. Y'all act like somebody said she should die or something. They just said that she shouldn't be talking about, having sex and stuff and saying that's what makes a church girl. Or maybe she should, because maybe that's what y'all Christians want. The circus, the cirque, church, it comes from the word circus. Maybe that's what y'all want. But are we going to deny the fact that when she did Black is King and they put that on Disney Channel, Disney literally, if you flip it upside down, it spells wicked. It's designed to be wicked. Mickey Mouse, wicked, right? For those of you who didn't hear what we were talking about last night and stuff, or you didn't seen that video before, right? But she went to a wicked place called Disney, right? Wicked Plus, Disney Plus, right? I'm not going to act like I've never watched anything on Disney Plus, but I'm just going to be honest. If you go in there, we got to be really aware of what we're watching, because we're watching something that's designed to be wicked. If you're going to learn something out of it, be ready for some wicked lessons. If you're going to have your children watch this up, be ready for some wicked lessons. And she went there and she did Black is King. And when she did Black is King, she was up there dressed in white in a place where the devil was in there or whatever, right? And the devil has the snake and everything around. The devil is the snake, then all of a sudden the snake ends up on her. We're gonna act like that. We're gonna act like that didn't happen. We're gonna act like that didn't happen. We're just gonna act like she didn't proclaim that she was the devil. We're gonna act like she didn't keep putting her son up as the Madonna and Christ child. Y'all think that's a picture of the actual Maryam Yashra? No. That's a picture of Madonna and Christ child, and she put herself there and said her son was there. We're gonna skip over the fact that in the beginning of it, in the first song, or maybe the second song, when she's introducing and talking to it and talking about you are more than this, you are more than the Bible, you are more than this or whatever. You are the Messiah. We're gonna act like she didn't say that. We're just gonna skip past that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even if you don't believe in the Messiah, you're going to act like she's not telling you that she wants you to worship her child. We're just going to skip past that. Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched enough of it where we did a little series before. So at some point, maybe I watched it. I didn't even want to watch it. I watched it when it was already well past what, young people would say is old. Right? Are we going to act like she didn't put her child in the basket? Right, in a basket or in an ark, and put it down the water and mismanaged the scripture, because the scripture never said Moses went down the Nile River, but she put him down the river and then basically had him come out and said that was the child that was going to save everybody, that child. And then later on says that child is going to be, the Madonna's child, a god, a deity. Well, that's what I was saying. Disney itself is wicked. We're going to ignore that too. That's what I'm saying. Right? But she went to a place where we know it's wicked. Like, we know Disney is a place to where Mickey Mouse, like that video's been coming out that everybody's been watching. Mickey Mouse on the, you said you banned it from your house after the Sasha Fierce mess. I don't even know what the Sasha Fierce mess is, in all honesty. But I guess I'll look it up. But y'all seen the conveyor belt thing that's been going around about Mickey Mouse, right? Mickey Mouse is on their conveyor belt and he's using his phallus. He's using the penis. He's using his phallus, that he has an erection that's sticking out of his pants, or that is sticking out so much that his pants are protruding just like his phallus is. And he's using it to make cheese, Swiss cheese, and then putting it back on the conveyor belt. Saying basically, literally, what is the mindset of that? We don't think about subliminal messages. We don't believe in those things, so to speak, but these subliminal messages are all over there. Why do you think that Mickey Mouse is literally going through cheese and making Swiss cheese, putting it back on the conveyor belt? Is Swiss cheese something that's going to be ate? You know what I'm saying? I want you to think about these things. And who's eating the cheese? Now, he's a mouse, right? You would think the mouse would eat the cheese. And by the way, I don't want to go too, because they all start thinking it's conspiracy theories, but I could go deeper as far as what color is Mickey Mouse? Mickey means, flipped upside down means wicked, right? If you flip mouse upside down, what does that mean? We could go to some wild places with it, but but I'm just saying, these are things you can watch for yourself. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ruin the Swiss cheese. I'm just trying to tell you, if he's making Swiss cheese, you got to ask yourself, how is he making? He's putting these holes in the cheese for you to eat using his phallus. Who's going to eat that? Is that going to be the children that are watching? He's so busy. They're telling you the truth. He's so busy dancing, right? What he's doing and stuff. He literally taking cheese, putting it here, twisting it around, and you're not even seeing what he's like. You're so busy watching the dancing. See, that's what magic tricks are. That's Jannies and Jambies, magical practicing priests. Like, they're so busy dancing that you don't even see the perversion. Because you would never expect in your mind. I heard somebody say this the other day. I was trying to figure out, why is this sticking with me so much? But now I see why. The guy from Penn and Teller, I think it's Penn. Penn is the one that talks, I believe, whichever one talks, the taller one. But the magician from Penn and Teller, he was on over in England or something, and he was showing basically the audience one of the ways that he messes with people, and how he said that magic. He said the reason why magic is there, he was like, people think that magic is great, but he was like, actually, magic is stupid. He's like, people think that magic is like making you think something happened perfect. Yeah, right. You're the hand quicker than the eye. He said, no, magic is stupid. He said, your mind wants perfection. He said, your brain is always trying and seeking perfection. He said, magic is actually stupid. He said, so the reason why I can get things over on you is because I'm actually giving you something that's imperfect. And because it's so imperfect, you will believe what is imperfect. Or I'm sorry, you will try to look over the imperfection to make perfection. Right? So he was saying magic is actually something people talk about. Oh, it's so this and it's so grand and it's so flowing. He was like, no, magic is actually very stupid. Like the mind doesn't like magic. The mind allows magic and gets fooled by it because magic is a breakup of perfection. Then he goes and he's and I forget the name of it. I don't remember the name of the girl on there. She's a comedian, kind of heavy set from England or whatever. And so he shows the audience how he does this stuff. So he has her, basically he takes a rope and he has her be his assistant. Right? Yeah, we try to rationalize, right? So he has the rope, he has this rope and he gives it to her. So he tells her to take the rope and swirl it around. And he's like, see, when you swirl it this way, I want you guys to cheer wherever she swirls it. So she swirls it, and the audience is in on it, but they don't realize the stupidity yet. But the audience is going to be able to see. He said, I'm going to show you guys what she can't see, so you can actually see what usually happens with these tricks, right? So she takes the rope and she swirls it this way, and the audience goes, yay! And then he swirls it this way, the audience goes, yay! And then he swirls it this way, and the audience goes, yay! Right? And then he does those things. He says, okay, this is what he said. He says, we're gonna do this again. Let's try one more time. And they go, yeah. And so she's not paying attention. As she shifts this way, he's over here on the side. What he does is he takes a little piece of rope and he actually like puts a little piece in his ear, right? So she can't see that. And the audience, you can start hearing murmuring, and some of them are saying, yeah, they're like, oh, what is that, right? Because it doesn't make sense. It's stupid. But you can see the stupidity, right? So right now, they're already in on, okay, we can't even act like this is a thing anymore from the beginning. Suspension of disbelief is gone, right? But the little girl, she's still into what? The stupidity. Yay. And then she goes this way, yay. And then he says, okay, cool. All right, this is what we're going to do. And so he takes the rope from her. He puts it around his head, or around his neck, excuse me. So now he's got the piece over here that he put in his ear. He's got the piece over there. He's put the part that bends, right? The part that is the two loose ends, the ends that aren't connected. He puts on this side. On the other side, he's got the other. So he starts talking this and that or whatever. He says, cool, you know how you were making that rope and everything? He says, well, this is what I do. What if we were to cut it? Right? So he grabs the rope from this side, grabbing what's in his ear, grabbing what's over here. And he puts them in his hand so that it looks like he's cutting the rope that she was swaying. But really, he cut, he cut what? He cut the one that was in his ear, the little small piece you couldn't see, right? And so he cuts it, and he says, okay, now go ahead and take it. And so she pulls out the big rope, and she knows in her mind, she's looking at it, and especially because she's hearing people kind of react because they've seen what's happened, she's looking at it like something doesn't seem right? But her mind wants perfection. So, hey, I put this in his hand, he cut it, I pulled it out myself, it seems to be fine. Hey, you know what? This must be fine. And as soon as she does it, he goes once again. Go over to him and say, see, great job, yay. And then when she goes over here again, what does he do? He throws the pieces away to where she can't see it, right? Like, and he goes, and he basically says magic once again. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Island of Maya. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And thank you for being on, babe. I love you very much. And thank you for being on. So here comes So then he throws it away, right, as she's doing it. So, and he once again reminds everybody that magic is stupid. Like magic is something that we're asking for you to believe something, even though she didn't even see what's going on. She didn't really believe it, but because her mind is saying, I need perfection, she'll just go ahead and go with it, right? So here you go, once again, Mickey Mouse. Like we're talking about, he's dancing, and he's so busy shucking and jiving that you missed that he literally make it like, what is he making the holes in the cheese with? Right? Like he's dancing, but what are the holes being made with? And then when you finally, and nobody ever thought even to rationalize it, because as a child just wants perfection. Child not thinking about sex. But when they get older, Mickey Mouse is something that you still cling to. Why are you still clinging to Mickey Mouse? Could it be possible it's because that you've seen him, you've had almost like a sexual relationship with him? Almost like a mind F, if you will, or mind freak, kind of like Chris Angel, right? Yeah, making that Swiss cheese. Like I'm just saying, they put these things in our head, and then we sit there, we try to figure out, why am I still doing this, right? You know, why can't I still recite something from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? Because there was something done on purpose to put it in your head, right? Something to make wickedness a new standard, to make you operate in wickedness, and make people and gaslight you when you say something about it. We know that when you drink from Mickey and you turn it over in the cup, you see it upside down in your cup, it says wicked, right? When you see Mickey, it says wicked. Why did you never think about that? Why did they go out of their way to make sure that they drew it to where when you saw it upside down, it said wicked? And since you're drinking it, you see it, but it's upside down. So since you see it upside down, you're not even thinking, but what does your mind do? Remember, your mind sees stuff one way and tries to flip it the other way. They know what they're doing, right? They've studied you enough. And it was interesting, if I tell a child that, the child believes it, but the adult who still has the relationship with Mickey Mouse, they're still trying their best. No, you don't comprehend what's going on. But that's why Psalm 131, I've got to have that what? That faith as if I was weaned of a child, even my soul, my psychology, and must be as a child of the Most High. The last verse, and then we're just going to talk through the rest of this. The last verse, verse 3, let Israel, this is who it was talking about, these children, these people who must be kingdom-minded. Let Israel, let Yahweh hope in Yahweh, in Adam, from henceforth and forever. Now, you know, forever, by the way, is a word that a lot of people mismanage too, because forever we know is forever. How long? Forever. There's an ever. But you know, some version of the word forever literally mean, when somebody says forever, some versions of the word actually just mean we don't know how long. And that would be a great statement, because how long is eternity? Can you quantify eternity as far as time? How much time fits into eternity? I don't know. Forever. That's what forever is. Forever. Right? Forever. But I don't know how long that is. I know that it's beyond time. It's just forever. I don't know how long that is. I just know it's forever. It's beyond time. That's what they're trying to get us to comprehend. It's like you can't even begin to deal with the Most High as far as what you think, because if the Most High is already dealing in forever, right, then that means he's dealing in something that you can't quantify, that you can't qualify, that you can't put your little hands on and be able to say, this is what I dictated to be, or mandated to be. That's why they had to change the Most High from Yahweh to God, or from Yahweh to a Netur, or from Yahweh to a deity, or from Yahweh to a deus, or Yahweh to Odin, or from Yahweh to Jupiter, or from Yahweh to Orion, or from Yahweh to Osiris, or from Yahweh. They had to change it because you can't keep the Most High with something that is unknown. He's the known unknown. We're intimate with somebody who keeps living in eternity and is gathering us and making us better as his wife. That is a known unknown. For those who like mathematics, I'm not a mathematics major by any stretch of the imagination, but a known unknown is something that is a quandary for many. But in the kingdom, a known unknown is what's going to lead you through eternity. How do you get led forever if you're not married to forever? This is why our second affirmation, Romans chapter 8, verse 11. What does Romans chapter 8, verse 11 say? It says that you are now focused on the Spirit. The same Spirit that rose Yahshua from the dead dwells within you and will quicken your mortal body. Start focusing on immortality. Plan for the immortal places. Nation building, plan for the immortal. Plan for the known unknown. So that when the unknown shows up, you can be in tune with the one who knows what's the unknown. I don't know if somebody got that or not. How you doing, Mr. Sonny? Right? I don't know if you said because he will behead that false deity. because he will behead what false deity is there. Okay. Amen. Right. Amen. So you got to know the known. Known is what? Intimate. So I know Yahweh, but I know Yahweh, but he's eternal, which means that since I'm still dealing with time, I'm still dealing with I can only say a lot of us in time, since we're stuck on time. And like, I'm not saying we should still be stewards over time, by the way, but since we're stuck on time, we're dealing in known knowns, but we don't know how to deal with the unknown. We don't know how to deal with the unknown. We like known knowns, right? We're not trying to be children of the unknown. See, a lot of people will try to trick you guys and be like, well, if you only read the Bible, if you only read the Apocrypha, if you only read the 200 books, whatever you be reading, if you only read those, then how are you going to know anything else? There's stuff out there that's unknown. See, but no, the person that I'm reading, who is the Word is He, and He is the Word. He is the known unknown. Whatever I don't know, I will know in Him. Where you are from, you are dealing with something that is really an unknown. You are dealing with, hey, is this sculpture? They talk bad about Yahshua, something we can't see. They create things that they can see and they worship them. George Washington. Like, it's unknown that George Washington can do anything for your eternity. George Washington already dead and gone, syphilis, raping women, pulling teeth out of his slaves, into colorism, all the stuff. Right? And we don't know what's going to happen with the United States of America. We just know it's not going to end well. But if I have a known, eternal, spiritual connection, marriage even to the Most High, then He's going to teach me the unknown. See, I was born and raised with George Washington was more important than the Most High. I know y'all want to say that wasn't the way y'all were raised. Yeah, it was. You know how I know he was? He was because you made sure that you put more effort into the flag at school than you did about making sure it was about the Most High. I pledge allegiance to the flag, not to God. It was one nation supposedly under God, but you pledged allegiance to the flag. You were taught your whole life. Even if you weren't somebody that was all that patriotic, you were taught your whole life to give your life to something else outside of your people, outside of your ways, outside of the Most High. You said whenever they placed the Ark of the Covenant with the false deities or gods, yeah, they were destroyed, most definitely. You said you had a death situation back. Oh, sorry, it scrolled up. Give me a second, sorry. Okay, had a death situation back in 2014. Elohim has his people all in his hand. The experience, okay, he had them all in his hand. Okay, well, okay. That was something I can't explain, but know God is real and beautiful energy. Oh, okay. If that's what you say, that's what you went through, then no problem. I don't worship God, once again, but I appreciate that. There's a difference between God and a nature and a spirit and a deity and Elohim. Like we just try to, people do a catch-all because like they do with the U.S. Everybody's got to be U.S. Like we just do. Everybody in the U.S. has got to be an American. That's not how it works. Like people have tribes. People come from places. People come from people. Yeah, indoctrinated at 5 years old. Yeah. You said, what do I think about different tricks that Chris Angel performs? I don't know enough about it. I think Chris Angel probably is like many magicians, and I think he leans heavy towards occult-like things. Is it possible that he does some things in the spirit that, especially the way that people react to some of his stuff? I mean, it's possible. At this point, I don't really care. Anybody who's rocking the occult that much, if I'll be honest with you, anybody who's rocking the occult that much, that's problematic. I probably want to be careful around that person. Somebody who's like rocking stuff and wearing stuff that has to do with death, the upside down crosses and pentagrams and the Death Stars and Baphomet type stuff and all that. It's just stuff that I'm not really trying to worry about at all. And definitely not somebody I would take time out to hang around, or I can't tell you the last time I watched a Chris Angel show or anything like that. I actually was watching them for a while, and I realized I started getting into it just to try and figure out, was he demonic, blah, blah. Now some of the things we could tell how he did, some of the things looked like it might've been, very demonic or whatever. And, if that's the case, or if that's what's going on or whatever, it's just kind of like, why am I spending so much time to try and resonate on demonic? I'll study things enough to be able to be like, okay, yeah, it is or it isn't, or this is where it comes from in the culture. But after a while, like, it doesn't need to take that much of my brain space, if you get what I'm saying. But uh-oh. Demon worker. Okay. What do you think about the phrase, you're single until you're married? I think it depends on somebody's culture. As far as the Bible is concerned, as far as Yahshua is concerned or Israel is concerned, that's a false statement, because you're married to the Most High. So like technically we're all married to the Most High while even being married, but you're married to the Most High. And you're supposed to be pre-qualified as a husband and pre-qualified as a wife. So even when people talk about married, people don't deal with the fact that sex is marriage and marriage is sex. Every time you have sex with somebody, your DNA even intertwines. We talk so bad about the shots. And, oh, you know what they're doing with that shot and mRNA and stuff and all that. That's real. There's real stuff to that. But what about the fact that every time you have sex with somebody, there's a mixture of DNA and stuff too, because you're supposed to become one. So just culturally speaking, it's not correct. For example, even, like we talked about the raising of the boy earlier, the raising of the girl, 0 to 3, you teach her she's a girl. Ages 4 to 6, you kind of get her to where she's not as dependent on daddy, and she's going to learn from mama, right? Ages 7 to 9, she's going to start doing stuff with mom, like, the apprentice of the father is the son, the apprentice of the daughter is the elder wife, the elder woman in the family. I don't believe in multiple wives. I meant to say, the elder woman, but we believe that you should be a wife, right? You should be pre-qualified. Then from there, you make sure she gets taught. Ages 13 to 15, you're teaching her how to be an adult female, right? And then from there, she has her bat mitzvah, or what we call the bat mitzvah. And then from there, she goes from that to, she goes from that to learn what it is to be a wife. And then from that, she learns what it is to be a mother. And then, in that process, she will then live with her father. Her father is not her husband, but he's going to act as like a de facto husband for her. So even if she has a business and making money, he's like the protection for her. He's making sure she feels secure and stuff. And so when she meets her husband has to step up and do some of those same things, because he's gone through his training we talked about earlier. So our idea of marriage is usually a whole falsehood thing. But to say, I'm not saying, I get what people mean when they say enjoy your being single, where you have two single people that are coming together. But technically, especially once you come into the knowledge of the Most High and are baptized, you are married to Yahweh for the rest of your life. You're married to Yahweh for the rest of your life. That's your first husband. And I, as a husband, I'm still a wife to Yahweh. Right? And I have a wife, but I am a wife. Israel is a wife. We're married, right? So I shouldn't even be teaching or doing anything if I'm not married to the Most High. So the idea of marriage, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, etc. Once again, what is the culture of it? This is sad. I'm sad. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you. Let's see. Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you. We appreciate you as well. So you have a lot of different things where like you're dealing with, we're dealing with stuff, even our definitions of marriage. We're whose definition of it is it? Who has defined it? We have not defined it. So like Psalm 131 is where we are, the 12th step in the Song of Degrees, and we got 3 more steps to go after this. But in these 12 steps, are we really recognizing what's going on? You said, what are my thoughts in Ashera, the Queen of Heaven? Well, I don't really have much thoughts, in all honesty. It's not something that I'm about. I worship Yahweh. So Ashera would be, hold on 1 second. Let me look up something real quick before I misspeak about Ashera. Let me make sure I have the, okay, yeah, so Mediterranean. Mediterranean. Yeah, so Yeah, so I thought, okay, I know it's Ashara, right? Okay, so I'm with you somewhat. I still don't really know a bunch about it or whatever, but it's mentioned as a false deity, and there's mentioned as a false spirit, as a false. Some people try to say goddess or whatever, but that's from a different culture. So I don't really have much to say about other than like it's a false version of Elohim. Um, she's not the Holy Spirit. She is not the Virgin Mary. She is not, many different things that people try to say. And so, as far as this there, outside of that, I'm not an expert on her per se. So, I don't really have much more. I'm sorry if you needed more from me on that. I just don't have much more than that. But once again, it just comes to culture. Once again, like culturally, there are some things that once again, building this nation, which is nationalism. I'll fully admit nationalism is a system in which you're dealing with a nation. So when you're dealing with nationalism or a system for your people to live off of, that's all nationalism is. They want it to sound bad, just like they want to call you a cult, but every culture is a cult, right? You can't have cultures without cult. Culture is literally just talking about expansion upon the cult. If we just keep it 100. Right. So, the United States Corporation is a cult. The United States of America is a cult. The Americas are a cult nowadays. Western society is a cult. But it's all about culture. You said, what's my religion? Religion is something that you repetitively do as a legion of people. So I'm religiously drinking water. I religiously go for walks. I religiously pray. I religiously study Paleo Hebrew. I guess if you mean what do I call myself, because that's probably what you mean more so, or who am I from? Not where am I from, but who am I from? I am Tisalagi, I am Taino, I am Yashtal, I am Shwe, I am Ashanti, I am Timbuktu, I am Moor, if you want to go use that broad term. I am Negro, if you want to talk about Negro land even. I am Kush, I am Kemet, I am Eritrea, I am Sudan. Um, I guess you'd even have to say before we call Babylon, I am Mesopotamia. I actually know where I'm from. And even some people who get DNA tests don't know where they're from either, but I actually know where I'm from past what a DNA test can give you. It's not really telling you exactly who you're from. It's just kind of telling you what blood you carry. Sometimes it tells you where you're from. Sometimes it just means a bunch of people that lived in a certain place, that died in a certain place. That's the DNA that you carry the same as them. So it's a Canaanite deity. Now Yahweh's culture is standard. There you go. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So as far as like you can call me a follower of the way if you don't like who I said I'm from. You can call me a follower of the way. You can call me Yashta. You can call me somebody who believes in the kingdom of heaven. You're somebody who can call me Rabbi if you decide that to be of the tribes that I am. There's a lot of different things that I'm, but see, even in that, you're asking what I'm called. I'm invited to those things. That's not who I am. Who I am is who I am, but all those things make up who I am, I guess, simultaneously. See, it's a bigger word. So people get into this whole thing. What's your religion? Religion just means what people repetitively do as a legion of people. Your religion can be just about anything. And really, for a lot of people, your religion is just about anything, in all honesty. A lot of us are out here just doing whatever we want and then saying it's religion or religious. Even the atheist is religious. If they get up every day and they go to work, that's religious. There's atheists that meet up together once a week and have, what we would identify as services, but they probably wouldn't. Right? But that's religion. That's religion. You said your father explained that to you recently. Yeah, a lot of people hold religion. Religion has nothing to do with what you do spiritually. It can be something you do spiritually, but even if you are not spiritually inclined at all, you're still religious. By definition, now I guess people would say it's involuntary, so maybe you can't call it religion. But if you breathe every day, you could kind of say that's religious too. But maybe people say no, just involuntary. So if we want to say it's just a voluntary thing, okay, if you're going to do your hair to get ready to go out today, right? Or if you're going to put your doily on before you go out, or if you're going to get your nails done today, or if you're going to take care of your children today, like that's religious. That's a religious experience. So I'm not tripping off of people's religion as much as I am what is the culture the religion comes out of. That's more important. Yeah, and I want to religiously serve Yahweh, who is the Most High, who is the Al Shaddad, right? Who is Yahweh Nisi, right? Who is Yahweh Al Hach, right? Like that's what I want to serve. That's who I want to serve, right? And so that's why we have certain laws and principles and cultural things that we do all the time, because we're trying to serve the Most High religiously. That's what religion is. Religion, literally a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. That's what you're talking about. Like the most simple way to explain religion. We once again, we try to over-explain it. We try to tell people that we try to make ourselves the people who are in charge of the religion. So we tell you, no, it's not religion unless you do da da da. No, religion literally means a legion of people that repeat the same process together, because it's a legion. A legion does things together. Okay, Joe Wayside, you made your point on that over and over again. I don't know what the point is, but maybe if you'd like to say hello and then be able to say like what you're actually trying to do, or if you're just trying to say that, hey, how you doing? But we got you. Because to say that is a really broad thing. If you're trying to be there, this is a place where you could actually say what you want, as long as you treat people with respect. Thank you for being on, Will Robinson. Let's see. You said you agreed now that I know better. So thanks. Oh, of course, Beverly. Yeah, and these are just things that we weren't taught either, if we be honest. A lot of us weren't taught these things. We weren't taught to go through these things. So, but once again, we're on the 12th step of these 15 steps in the Song of Degrees. And in these steps, we have to recognize what's going on. We have to realize what's going on. How did I learn Hebrew? I mean, I studied. I sat at the feet of Jewish scholars. I've sat at the feet of scholars. I sat at the feet of Israelites. I went back and looked for pronunciation. I did some research and realized that, people were even lying about Moses as the first person to write the stuff. That's kind of what we were told. And, and that's why, the Kemetic stuff is there. But even before Moses, you have a whole bunch of evidence that goes back to Hebrew. What is the writing of him? Different things like that. But you do some study, you do your research. And you come upon this. This is stuff that started before I was even really using, the internet like that. I'm kind of slow to technology. I'm not great with it, but and I religiously, I guess if you will, worked on the education and was educated. So, but yeah, there's a ton. There's a lot of different things out there, reference points. But once you learn, Paleo Hebrew, it opens up the whole thing for you, because when you can decipher a word, even if you can't decipher what the word means, the characters tell you what they mean. So even if like in beginning means in beginning, if I know Barashat, and I know once again the son who comes out the right family, who's one with the Father, becomes our head by being destroyed, being led to the cross. That's the first word, right? So just that within itself pushes and moves me to a higher level of comprehension that before Genesis doesn't really get anywhere, right? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Well, who is God? Like people actually ask that. And that's a great question. Or even people try to say in a beginning, God created. There's no a, there's no the. So how are we gonna have a conversation about in a beginning when the Bible never says in a beginning? So now you're looking for multiple beginnings, but the Bible never says in a beginning, because we don't use the word a and we don't use the word the. We just say in beginning, which means there's beginning. Beginning is beginning. Beginning of what? Heaven and earth. I'm sorry. Barashit. Barashit bara alacham achamayam aras. And even bara is one character short of barak, right? Or it's changing the character, which would make it barak. Barak would mean to bless. So really, you're talking about even somewhat a bestowing of a blessing upon physical manifestation from the spirit, so that there could even be a heaven and earth. Different conversation, right? Different conversation, but it's difficult because once again, we're not dealing with our culture, our people. So our culture and our people, we wrestle against flesh and blood, or we're wrestling not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, right? Principality, or kingdom origin. That's what that word actually means. Origin or kingdom, put the two definitions together, kingdom origin. We're wrestling against kingdom origin, kingdom origin. What was the original? You show me the original, you show me how you change somebody's life. And the problem is we're so busy telling you, motivate, do this, become this, say this, get in the gym. Like all that stuff is fine and great and everything, but what's the origin? Like one thing I discovered or whatever, I'm on my whole thing of especially being so busy and going back and forth and not eating correct and stuff like that, like I should, I've realized I'm picking up, some weight again. And so I realized like, guess what I'm gonna go back to the origin. What was the origin of what was making me feel better and do things and grow and not grow physically, but grow spiritually, right? Not eating until I was actually hungry. Now, I'm not really been eating unless I'm actually hungry, but I've been overdoing it. Now I'm just, look, last couple of days, get hungry and you eat, right? That's what you do. It's something that I know I'm familiar with, but I need to go back to it because, and I'm not overweight, like extremely overweight or anything, but for what my body is used to, for what I want and for how I'm trying to live 150 years, like I need to make sure that my body gets back to certain programs. So, okay, we're just not going to eat until it feels like it's starving right now because I've been going past my one meal a day. But if I go back to my one meal a day, eventually I won't want but one meal a day. So even if I'm feeling faintish or whatever, work through it, push through it, press and strain, look beyond what I see, look beyond what I feel, get stuff done. Why? So that then I'll be in a position to where my body will thank me and be in accordance with it later. I'm not that far removed from it, so it shouldn't take me that long to get back to that regular basis. But I'm just saying, like, I noticed the other day, like, man, even, how you notice your certain clothes and stuff, you're not really able to do this and do that, and it's taking more difficulty. And it wasn't even that it was around my midsection yet. It was just my arms and stuff. And I'm not working out my arms and stuff. So that means that obviously I must be getting out of balance and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to try and put this on my whole body, right? I'm just going to make sure that I start going through a process, right? So if I don't eat, I just don't need to eat. I always start off with water and stuff anyways. I don't start off with caffeine, so I don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff where your body be feeding for caffeine and stuff, and it'll actually start producing its own stuff to give you energy. That's why I have people be like, how you have energy and stuff throughout the day? I don't start off with caffeine, at least for the first, few hours. If I even am on the road or getting coffee or filling myself up with some kind of sugar product to where I got to, get on the road for 12 hours or something like that when we were doing all that traveling, I usually don't wake up with it. So if I don't wake up with it, it actually means something to my body to have it, right? So I you can start with something hot, usually hot water, then maybe put some tea with that as well, right? Have some water throughout the day. You call it water fasting or intermediate fasting. That's just used to be part of your culture. But I'm saying all those things to say this, like we're getting outside. See, all that stuff I just said, that's religion. And so the bad food and stuff that I've been allowing, not even bad food, but just really as far as the lengths of eating I've been going to, that's bad religion. That's bad religion. That's what it is. That's religion, right? If somebody, that's why it is important what you eat. Somebody will say, oh, well, who cares what you eat? But that's religion. That's religion. If you say that you're part of something where you're trying to get your body to be in a certain order for certain people, which by the way, certain people eat certain foods. Nothing wrong with that. You said you recently started back only eating 8 hours per day, not easy yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the change and praying for you because that change is something, right? To go back to those healthier habits, right? But I'm just trying to tell you, like, you're gonna have to get to a place to where you're going, like, it's okay for your people to eat a certain way. We were talking about this. I don't know if we talked about this on the live, or I talked about it with my wife, but we were talking about how we might have talked about this on the live last night, not sure. However, and when I say we, my wife was on last night. If you missed, we have the recording on. I'm sorry, you said caffeine pills, the calcium from your teeth and bones. It takes the calcium from your teeth and bones or messes it up? I'm not sure. But yeah, so we were talking about how if you go to a Chinese restaurant, you're never going to see anybody up there being like, this is terrible. How come you got a Chinese restaurant in the middle of the town? It pulls it from. Okay, I didn't know that. Right? So you're never going to hear anybody say, oh, I'm going to a Chinese restaurant. This is so terrible. How come you got to have a Chinese owned place? Why you got to make it a point to say that this is a Chinese owned place? It doesn't make sense. You're going there for Chinese cuisine. Chinese people also like support from their community. And why would you make it a point to say this is the culture of where you're going to eat? Right? Okay. So then you have Chinese culture, right? So then after that, Chinese culture, then if I see a Mediterranean restaurant, nobody goes, why you got to call it a Mediterranean restaurant? If I go to a Greek place to get a gyro or a hito or whatever it is, why you got to call it a Greek restaurant? If I go to an Italian restaurant, nobody says, why you got to go to an Italian restaurant? However, let somebody put Black owned on the side of a restaurant and people lose their mind. Why? You ask yourself, because your culture is something that's an enemy. Why? You see in all these things we've been reading in Psalms, right? Many times have they tried to afflict me. Now may Israel say. That's in this Song of Degrees we read so far. They are at ease with scorning you, and they are full of contempt for you. Psalm 123, verse 4. That's why we have to build something based upon Yahweh for ourselves. Except Yahweh build the house. Those that build it, they labor in vain. Except Yahweh keep the city, the watchman waketh in vain. In Israel. Psalm 127. Oh, we got to make sure that those who are in Jerusalem are doing what's necessary to keep the law and keep the ways and not come outside of it. Psalm 121. In our distress, in my distress, this particular distress my people are going through, I cried out to Yahweh and he heard me. That's Psalm 120, the first step. Psalm 128, we have to make sure that our men are where they're supposed to be. Matter of fact, hold on. Psalm 127, 8, 9. I could be wrong. Psalm 128 or Psalm 129. I feel like Psalm 128, where verse 4 starts talking about husbands and where they're supposed to be and fathers and stuff. And to go to verse 3, it'll talk about the blessing of if we're in position, what will happen with our wives and what will happen with our children. We have to make sure that we have these things correctly. I'm sorry, he said it wasn't paleo. Yahweh, is this correct spelling, Pastor? I'm not sure you said he said. I missed the first part of it. I don't know. But whoever said, Yahweh is Yahweh Vav. Now people will argue about the V sound. Some people say Yahweh, some people say Yahweh, or would you say Yahweh? Some people say Yahuwah, right? And there's other sayings too. Some people say Ahaya, but Ahaya is a mismanagement of Exodus 3:14 and Exodus 3:15. Exodus 3:15 says Yahweh is the name. Exodus 3:14 it basically says it is what it is, but you guys have heard that be taught to you as I am that I am. So that's why that particular verse is kind of messed up as far as the haya. But the whole oo or wa sound really comes from a w or a w sound. That's really all you're dealing with. There's some people, like Greeks, for example, they have a oo sound. We have a va sound. We never had a oo sound. So when it went from what we use to the Septuagint or to the Greek versions that started coming out, you would deal with the oo sound being introduced, right? Or even some of the Hebrew versions, they started putting some of the Greek, because remember, Hebrews started to speak their own language less. But when you go back through, different things or whatever, you'll realize that a lot of these letters, they didn't exist, especially in the Hebrew letter. So it's like the oo sound, the just sound, when people do the chut sound, these are not sounds that we had. These are not things that were in normalcy. It would have been difficult for us to even try to say because we didn't speak those things. So the vav, which is the sixth character, it's actually vav. If you have a W, that's what you call W, right? W is two V's together, right? If somebody makes a W, you call it W, right? In Espanol, Francais, I believe, en le français. But if you talk about, that's when you make it nice and round at the bottom, right? You're dealing with the same thing that's happening, which is basically in other cultures, they have a certain sound for this thing that you have. So with the va, right? Some people va, or the W sound even sometimes makes more of a wa sound for some people, right? So you have a wa sound that comes with it, but you didn't have a, you had vav, right? You didn't have a W or a U sound, you had vav. These are the only, there are no vowels in or what we call vowels. I guess you could say like the letter A technically is a vowel in the alphabet, but before the alphabet there was an aleph bit. In the alphabet, aleph is the letter A, and there are no vowels, right? So it is what it is. So we don't have like multiple sounds. Like basically you have a, e, and I, if you want to say there's vowel sounds, and they don't change. Like it's not a and a and a. It's not e and e and whatever. It's not I and I, right? It's no. Like a is it, e is it, I is it. That's pretty much if you want to talk about vowels, so to speak, and try to take things that are here now and put them in, then that's what's happening. So like if you have somebody who's saying a, pronounce the Hebrew term with the letter A or with an A sound, A, like Yahweh or something like that, or Yahweh, there's no A sound. So how do you say his name is Yahweh, right? There's no U sound. So how do we say he's Yahuwah or Yeshua, right? There's no U, not an original. Now we're talking about Greek and Latin and different things like that. And now dialects also too of scattered people that go into Greek and Latin and other things too. So that's something I often tell people, you're not going to get too much argument from me on certain things because I'm not going to argue too often about, you're not really going to hear me argue too often regarding, dialect, because a lot of it is dialect. And then when you become a scattered people, you pick up other languages and things as well, just like we picked up other deities and natures, so and spirits and gods, etc. So if you're going to be about our origin, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, I'm not going to argue, for those things, because some of those things are not necessarily origin anyways. We're arguing over dialect. Dialect, just like if somebody says, hey, you all, and somebody says, hey, y'all, right? Like, am I going to say, well, one's better than the other? Well, I mean, you could technically say, hey, you all, even though hey, you all is not even a correct sentence either, right? But one could argue, hey, you all is better than hey, y'all. But somebody, if you go down to a certain culture or a certain part of the culture, if they say, hey, y'all, and you say, hey, you all, they're going to look at you like, what's wrong with you? Right? Like, because that's not how it fits in this culture. It's a dialect thing. So some of the stuff that we're doing is more so some of that. It's like when somebody says goodbye. A lot of people don't know goodbye means God be with you. So now you got to figure out what God is being with you. That's actually how they would entertain that mindset, or good morning, different than Bakwat Tav. Like Bakwat Tav, or what you call Boker Tav. Bakwat Tav is literally saying that we believe that what the Most High has finished for you, that was what happened, what was nailed at the cross, and keeping the family in place. We believe that that's already finished for you, even before the rising of the sun. That's the mindset of Bakwat Tav. But, the mindset of that's the mindset of Bakwat Tav, in essence, right? But if we were to say good, a lot of people say, oh, Boker Tav is just how you say good morning. No, good morning is morning of the God, Mourning. I know they took the U off, but that's what it is. We're mourning God, or we're hoping that you don't run into that God that's there, right? When the sun comes up and it comes up less, we mourn that. Dealing with Saturnalia, things like that. I'm sorry. So where does religion come from? What time period does religion come from? Religion, once again, just means that people that repetitively do the same thing as a legion of people. So any people that have ever existed, they've been a religion or a religion. They've had religion. We're doing this weird thing where we're trying to go like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're talking about the same thing. Like, watch this. And we've already, and no shade to you, I'm just saying, we've been on for hours now. So you were just catching up on some stuff. Religion, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you deem religion or spirituality, you think religion and spirituality are one and the same, right? So that's what you think when you say religion, more so probably, right? Or you think if somebody believes in a higher power than what you can see or feel or touch, taste, even though we all believe in the microscopic, but or energy or frequency, but we believe that there can't really be something that we can't physically put our hands on and to qualify, right? If we can't qualify it, it doesn't exist. That's until we find out there's something that we we're living in that we couldn't qualify anyways, and then we keep going through that over and over again. But as long as it meets the criteria, but it doesn't matter which came first, what you call religion or science. If science came first, then that means religion came out of science. If religion came first, that means that science came out of religion. Either way, it's the same thing, is it not? It came from the same starting point, and that's what we have to realize. So they're arguing English spelling, a phonetic pronunciation, that too, yeah. And the meanings of characters are more important, that especially, right? Which is why this starts with Psalm 119. Psalm 120 through Psalm 134. We don't even know the culture or even the legion of people that repetitively did something. You can't read Psalm 120 through Psalm 134 without actually knowing Psalm 119 or Aleph Beth. That's the beginning thing. It's like people talking about Genesis. How do you know the Bible if you don't know Barashat is the actual word for Genesis, and that Barashat is the first word, and therefore you'll stop arguing in the beginning or in a beginning, like we said earlier. How do you argue something that was never there? You argue it because you're looking at somebody else's religion or somebody else's cultural perspective, or what somebody else does with words, or what somebody else feels about somebody else's words. But interpretation, which should always be properly handled, proper interpretation should give the proper construction. But when it's improper interpretation, it gives the improper construction. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but where there is ignorance, there is experimentation. And see, a lot of us keep living in experimentation as if all experimentation is in fact scientific. But what happens is when you don't know something, you just start doing stuff. That's what really starts happening with it. We don't know what's going on, so we just start doing whatever. And because we just start doing whatever, we just start doing whatever. So all of a sudden we start doing whatever, and people are like, "Hey, let's try this." So nobody, we don't really know that sex is marriage is sex. We don't know what happens to a person when they have this. We don't know. So let's just try having as much sex as possible. See what happens. Experimentation. Nobody taught me what a wife was. So since I'm ignorant of it, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to marry her. She'll become my wife. That's ignorant. That is experimentation. That's not how it works. I don't know how the universe was created, but I don't want to believe that some powerful spirit could make the universe and literally speak universal law, which is universe, a verse spoken sentence, a single spoken sentence. I don't want to believe in that, even though I use the term universe. So I'm going to say Big Bang, or I'm going to figure out ways to talk about Big Bang theories or whatever. I'm not going to admit that Gaia was the first version of the Big Bang, right? And that all came to be, or that a fight existed in, an Indian type, polytheistic mindset or whatever. And some of these, what you gods had a fight and their blood spilled across the universe, and that's how the universe did. I'm going to just experiment, and I'm going to keep saying, okay, so fine, I'm going to say there was a Big Bang, and the Big Bang came from something that was like the size of the Milky Way, or a galaxy of the Milky Way. Then it was the size of the solar system. Then it was the size of a planet. Then it was the size of a moon. Then it was the size of a period on a sheet, right? But then I realized that, like, even if I took out all of the oxygen in a train, and I would take all the molecules and everything out and just leave only what makes the physical train itself, right? Or you know what I mean? It's all physical, but hopefully you get what I mean, relatively speaking. And I just use the materials to make the train only. I still couldn't fit it all inside of something the size of a period, which means that if I believe E equals mc squared, which is energy has to turn into mass, or mass has to turn into energy, that means that I can't say that the Big Bang actually happened that way. So now I had to say that there was nothing and exploded from nothing, which is back to Gaia, but that's not great enough. So now they got to come up with a new thing that says, okay, well, the Earth is really 13 billion years old, and that you had several different universes or several different galaxies or whatever existing at the same time. One exploded, and then another exploded, and then they all went out. And we can tell by how far away they are that they're 13 point whatever billion years old because of the explosion and how far spread out it is, even though I can't see the whole universe. Yet come to find out that the universe moves faster than time. So it moves faster than the speed of light, which means that if it moves faster than the speed of light, it moves faster than time itself. So I still can't tell you how old it is. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're doing this weird thing where it's like we're going off of all these different things trying to figure out. We're experimenting all the time, and we keep having to cancel what came before. By the way, even E equals mc squared, or energy also turned into mass, is something that's not real. You know how we can tell it's not real? Because there's no such thing as a neutron. A neutron is hyper theoretical. It is a theory. There is no such thing as a neutron. One has never been seen under a microscope. There were protons and electrons. They know that those are real. They were having those explode, and when they exploded, right, they had a huge catastrophic thing happened, or great, depending on how you are, where they were using them as weapons, as bombs. Okay. When they did this, though, they realized that the protons and electrons that are mass exploded, and then they couldn't account for the energy anymore, which means that energy doesn't just turn to mass, and mass doesn't have to turn to energy. It can dissipate, it can go away, it can be destructive. So they didn't like that. They had been teaching people wrong. And so some young boys in Italy, aging from 15 to like 25 or so, basically 5 of them got together and came up with a theory called neutrons. Well, if protons and electrons are exploding, but we can't figure out where they're going, maybe they just go to a neutral place. Then they had to come up with another theory called neutrinos that still doesn't make sense, because once again, they're having problems with that whole speed of light thing. Now that's really deep and in depth to go into, and I might not be qualified to go all the way in depth on that, the rest of that, but that's real. Right? We're having a conversation about something where, because there's ignorance on it, we think that it's okay to experiment on it. When reality is once again, remember the known unknown we talked about? What if there's somebody that we can know who can give us the unknown, or guide us through the unknown, or guide us through the unknown to the point it becomes known? Right? I'm sorry I went off there for a little bit. I hope y'all kept up with that. But I was trying to make a point that this is all religious exercise by definition. You said it said E equals MC squared was a bad equation because he left ether out of it. Okay, even if you put ether in it, you still can't explain the fact that there's energy that disappears and it doesn't become mass, or mass that disappears and doesn't become energy, which is what I'm saying is that was the thing. Now we're saying it was bad because we put ether in it. By the way, the theory of relativity canceled out the theory of gravity. And the theory of relativity has been since disproven, and that theory has been since disproven, right? Debunked. So we're still living off of stuff that's not correct, because gravity does not only say what holds you to the ground. Gravity talks about inertia. Gravity talks about what stops you from going up, what stops you from going side to side, et cetera. Sir Isaac Newton on his deathbed didn't even want his name attached to the theory of gravity anymore. Before his deathbed, really. Right? So I'm just saying all these things we're talking about and we're using, I'm just saying we keep talking about all these things to keep saying that everything's basically unknown. And when everything continues to be unknown, well, then how are you going to know peace? Why would I be in a system and expect for them to give me peace when they don't even know what they're going, if they don't even know if what they told me I had to live by yesterday is going to be true or not. Yesterday, they told me that there were at one point, they told me there were 8 planets. Then they told me there were 9 planets. Then they snuck a 10th planet. Then they told me it was 9 again. Matter of fact, they said, forget that, it's just 8 again. I had to live that in my life. If you're going to keep telling me ain't nothing known, then why am I listening to you? If I'm looking for the known, I know there's some unknown things. I'm teachable, because he that knows that he does not know is teachable. Teach them. So I'm willing to be taught. But you can't keep telling me that you just don't know nothing, and then you don't know nothing again, and you don't know nothing again, and you don't know nothing again. At some point, it's like, I need to leave you alone. Yeah, this system, makes you question what you instinctively know. Even your instincts. They tell you animals have instincts, and that's what makes them great. But then when you have instincts, they say, oh, don't listen to that. Come on, somebody. If nothing else, even in your system, shouldn't you think of my spirit as an instinct? Shouldn't you think about the fact that I can pray, and when I pray, what I pray for happens? Shouldn't that be something you should at least give me credit for that? That means, once again, you're allowed to be held in contempt. Psalm 123, verse 4. You deserve to be scorned, and there are people that are at ease with your being scorned. So that the scientists give you something, and I'm not saying all scientists, and I'm not saying all things that are anti the word of Yah is things that we should not study at all. What I'm trying to tell you, well, in a sense, but hopefully y'all get what I'm saying, as far as I'm not saying just because it's in a science book means it's against the word of Yah. But let's make this clear. If you can't give me direction, what am I doing here? Yeah, you should accuse us of blind faith, but you have a Yeshua true and ever present. Yeah. And by the way, once again, your people that you keep telling me I must listen to, they keep saying, oh yeah, we don't know what we were talking about yesterday. And we don't know, like, what was that thing, babe? If you're still on, we were listening to something. Somebody said, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson said, I think it was Joe Rogan said that Neil deGrasse Tyson said, told him that, told him that they know And then he had to change it later to they believe. See, they don't like to use that word believe. But he said they know. Yeah, they really don't know nothing, right? He said this. He said, Neil deGrasse Tyson told me that they know, that later get changed to they believe. But that they know that the universe is so vast. This is what they said. The universe is so vast that there is somebody who's not like your doppelganger or whatever they call that term. They said not your doppelganger. They said that person, there is somebody out there who is exactly you, who has done every single thing that you've done in this universe. And then they said they believe that if you go through a black hole, the black hole will take you to an infinite version of other universes. Now tell me the proof and evidence of that, or if that's not straight up out of somebody's mind. Tell me. You show me where any evidence, where any scientific evidence, where any experimentation. But see, the experimentation, that's why I'm so glad that some of these scientists are, and not all scientists, I said, are with this. I'm saying some of these scientists are beginning to say that, are beginning to be like, some of this is crazy. Some of them are at least willing to admit, yeah, like, I believe this. Well, yeah, you got to believe it because there's nothing you can do to prove that. This is complete. You said like USPO movie. I don't know that one. I look for that one. You said that makes it sound like you're not unique or significant. That part too. And by the way, how much stuff is there for us to not, to basically say you're not unique. You're not Israel. You're not Yah's child. You could be, and watch this, since there is no higher power, that's what most of them, or not most of them, but or all these people who are deeming this particular theory as fact and forcing you to teach it in school. Now, you can't teach anything about your people. You can't teach about John Horst. They try to get it where you can't talk about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They don't want you to talk about Malcolm X. They don't want you to talk about Marcus Garvey. They don't want you to talk about, abortion of your babies against your will. They don't want you to learn that it was colorism thing. So it's not as simple as black versus white, but there were black women who identified as white and looked white enough that they passed, like George Washington's wife and King George's wife, both being over England and America, fighting against each other to keep slavery and capitalism, see which one was going to win. You had Queen Catherine, you had Martha Washington. Both of them were considered to be brunettes or brunettes. Actually, Queen Catherine was just straight up considered to be African. Martha Washington considered to be a brunette. Brunette back then meant to be a brown person or somebody who had Negroid features, which meant that she was white enough. They knew she wasn't white, but she also owned slaves before she married George Washington, meaning that George Washington married her because she would be able to help him double up on his slaves. He says that's why he married her, or one of the reasons, because it was practical, so to speak, for him to do so, right? But I'm saying that we say all these things, we don't know where this stuff comes from, right? And you're going to stop telling me that you're doing this and you're not trying to say that you're meaningless. Matter of fact, you'll hear people and they try to make it poetic. You'll hear them say, well, are you saying, like somebody, I think it was, here goes Neil deGrasse Tyson again, talking to Larry King. Larry King says, or Neil deGrasse Tyson says, would you want to live forever? Larry King says, yes. And by the way, nothing wrong with that answer. Why would you not want to live forever? But see, they do it's a cultural thing, like Interview with the Vampire and all this stuff. You don't want to live forever. You're going to be crazy. You're going to be like Lestat. You're going to be like Tom Cruise's character, right? You're going to be like Antonio Banderas' character. You're going to be in this bad place where if you live forever and you're going to lose your humanity and this and that or whatever. That was the beauty of Brad Pitt's character, is that he was supposed to be somebody who stayed human while at the same time was living forever, because all these other people, they lost their humanity and a lot of them gave up and they just wanted to stay in coffins and all stuff. And then you get the second one, remember Queen of the Damned and all that, and Aaliyah was somebody who had given up, and then she heard Lestat singing rock and roll music and stuff like that, and there was the rock and roll music and the energy of that and what he was doing in the world that made her want to come back to life. So she fed on her own husband so that she could be with Lestat. Like, it's decrepit stuff. It's the same culture. We don't know how to or put it together. They studied you, but we don't study them. Yeah, we're just only supposed to talk about their righteousness, but they're busy coming up with different things to say why you're not there. But Neil deGrasse Tyson asked Larry King, will you live forever? Larry King says yes. And Neil deGrasse Tyson just starts laughing and say, well, okay, I guess that's the end of it. And he's a smart aleck. Yeah, I was gonna call him smart something else. Y'all forgive me, right? I guess technically it's not a curse word, but I won't say it. I know how to make this look. So, but he's a smart aleck. And then he says, "Well, just think about it. You know, I realize, that I'm not. Why would I want to live in all these things or whatever? Even if I lived in this and lived in that and tried to live forever, or like, what if I was and he went into this some wild explanation. What if I were able to live and be like this or whatever, if I were to live in a black hole, me just staying in the black hole and not being attached to everything because you're trying to live forever to do everything. But if I just stayed in the black hole and not watched the universe, but because the black hole, everything moves faster inside or outside of a black hole than it does inside the black hole. And so by the time I do this, I'd be there. And you listen to him and they were trying to make it sound like it's poetic, putting this music behind it. The reality is he didn't say nothing. He didn't say nothing. Why would you want to live your life in a black hole? And why is the only way I can live forever inside of a black hole? It's because that you're trying to say that, like, basically, like, living for somebody else is insignificant. Why is living for your brother, your sister insignificant? Why is living for your wife insignificant? It's always interesting. Why do you even have a wife and a child? Why do you care about taking them if there's no meaning and no purpose? Because you're the very person that will tell me that you don't know what you're talking about because you're going to prove it to be unknown. You're going to prove that it's something that we shouldn't have done anyways tomorrow. So if you have a marriage today, why in the world are you trying to keep a marriage into your tomorrow when tomorrow you might find out that you're not supposed to be married? And by the way, that's when they make excuses for stuff. Y'all hear them saying crazy stuff now, like post nut clarity and all that. In other words, guys have sex, and when they have sex, they look down at the woman, they realize they made a mistake, and they don't want to be with them anymore, so they ghost them. And that's a very real thing, and therefore you should go ahead and realize that women should be more forgiving of that when men do that to them and stuff. No, that's because you don't know what marriage is. You don't know what being a husband is. You don't know what being a wife is. You laid down with somebody, and then that's only supposed to be between husbands and wives. And when you ended up finishing laying down with them, you realize that, I'm not prepared for the stuff that comes with this, especially if we have a child. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Right? Like, why do we make this? We have to see science is used in a whack way. That's why people are seem to become anti-science, because those who are supposed to be scientists do not use science. Science is something that you have to show me results. You have to be able to give a proper experiment, but you've been giving improper experiment. Ignorance leads to experimentation. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. I'm not going to get deep into the ignorance. This is the experimentation, but hear what I'm saying. Yeah, why would I want to be in darkness forever? But it's because you're of a culture that's in darkness. Why would I keep wanting to be around evil? People talking about, religiosity, so to speak, talking about evil. You must be able to balance good and evil for the rest of your life. First of all, I'm not trying to balance God and evil because I don't worship God. I worship Elohim. But secondly, as you're talking about positivity of things that are constitutional against things that are wicked, why would I want that to be balanced in my life? I don't want to wake up and have 5 days of being wicked and 5 days of being righteous. I want to be righteous. Because righteousness is in right lawful standing. Wickedness breaks down that which is lawful. Law protects rights. It doesn't give rights. Why would you want to keep being something that breaks down your right? Rights to positivity and happiness and the divine. How you doing, Sister Carrie? Why would you keep breaking down these things as far as your rights? Why do you keep speaking things that break your body down? I'll never be able to be better. Why? Why do you do that? And why do we try to find a reason to say that it's okay for that person to stay in that in perpetual servitude forever? What kind of contract or covenant has that person signed up for to where I'm just never going to get better? I'm going to live for everybody else, and I'm going to get sick living for everybody else, and I'm not going to be able to serve anybody else past a certain expiration date because I've decided to date my feelings for my children rather than love myself and love the Most High and love what He's called me to do so that I can be there for my children for an extended amount of time. Yeah, some people. And you got to be called out of darkness. That's the problem. You in this culture, are you called out of darkness? The word called, kletos, are you invited out of darkness? What in this system is inviting you out? See, that's why we're going through this series, Song of Degrees. This is the 12th step. This is the step that is Psalm 131. It is the step that is going to cause you and I to have to make kingdom in everything that we do. We started at Psalm 120. We're at Psalm 131. This is kingdom today. You got to be in a position to where you can step outside of something that's been established to hurt you and choke the life out of you, and to step inside something that's going to cause you to be authorized to do great things for eternity. Which shall you choose? Choose ye this day whom you shall serve. Will you serve something that says, hey, be depressed, be oppressed, be repressed? Always have to digress. Or will you simply confess that you need to be something greater than you've been before? And are you called? You must be called by the one sent in the flesh. Where he at? I'm sorry? You must be called. Are you called? Oh, because you're in the Yahya Judah thing? Okay. Yeah, I'm not supporting the false Messiah. Because when the Messiah comes back, he's not coming back to teach. You're supposed to teach. When the Messiah comes back, he's coming back with an army. So we've talked about that before. If you want to hear my stuff on that, it's plenty of recordings. I'm not going to listen to somebody who's not even obedient to what he says his own word is. Right? I am the Lord, I change not. He's not coming with a new word and flipping the script on what he is. So, but once again, and I don't know, is that you? Are you the person? Oh no, you're a priest for the person. Okay, yeah. I'm not doing that. False messiahs, they should get less love, because really it's an antichrist spirit behind that. And I would check that. Like something as simple as, once again, look at Matthew chapter 24, right? And read all the way verse 1 through 14 at least. And when you get there, you'll discover that when the Messiah is coming, it's a continued conversation. Revelation didn't just start at Revelation 1, right? He continues conversation with John that he was having in Matthew 24, verse 14, right? And verses 1 through 14. And in verse 14, he tells you, like, you're supposed to give the interpretation of the word. And that's when he comes back. So if Yahya Judah needs to come back, whatever his name is, right, he has to come back to be able to tell you how to interpret the word, then it means that things are out of order, right, with him, because he gave the interpretation and said, preach what I gave you. And then he said, when you preach it and everybody in the world hears what I gave you, then Revelation said he's just coming back to make sure that he separates those who are in the light from those that are in the darkness. So you have to be careful with that. You said you're one part of the army. This is the new song and the new name. No, it's not. First of all, it wasn't a new song. Well, the song that you're talking about, even the Ode of Moses. The Ode of Moses is from Deuteronomy. We already know what song that is. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to be careful about who you're getting with. You're listening to this stuff, and he's going against his own word. So if you believe that he can lie, then you have to follow Yahya Judah or whatever his name is, right? Or Yajuju or whatever it is, right? Okay, Kofi, you don't have to be like that. You come on here to tell people that they're wrong about their position or whatever, and people should be able to represent theirs. I'm just telling you, if he said something in his word, and you know what his word says, if you know that the Ode of Moses is what we're supposed to sing, and you don't know the Ode of Moses, but you're trying to learn a new song, I'm saying that you'd have to say that everything that the Messiah that you're coming in, and everything that led up to him and what the prophet said, etc., you have to say that all of it was wrong. Right? And it seems like you're willing to be on that cliff and to jump off that cliff. I'm just trying to warn you. You might not like it, but I have love for you. I would hate to see you go out like that, because the Messiah is not coming back except to put everything in order. He's not coming back to teach. That's not the way it works. That's not the way that works. Right? He's not coming back to teach. Right? Itching ears. Yeah, you got to be careful. So the person might not like it. I don't know if you're still on it now, because I know you were muted. I'm just trying to tell you, you might not like it. The reality of the matter is, though, is that the Most High is not allowing his son to come back. The Father, when he tells him that the mansion, the add-on to the house, to the family, is complete, he's not saying that to send him back because he needs to get his, teach his bride what it is to be a wife. He's coming back because he already found a wife. Israel is his wife. Those grafted in are already his wife. Like, in no context does it make sense that a Messiah needs to come back to teach you. And that it goes for Yaju Judah. That goes for the cat that they worship in Korea. That goes for the for the whole Madonna and Christ child thing that people keep trying to put on. That goes for those who are trying to say that we need to worship Horus. That goes for those that are still in the Tammuz or Ishtar and don't even realize it's Katesh and Nimrod and some wild nonsense. Like, that goes to any of them. If you are a false Messiah, we speak against you in the name of Yahweh, Acham Yahweh, right? And because the curses are Allah, they are upon thee right now. And we're trying to make sure that only Barak Allah, Acham Yahweh, right? That only the blessings of Yahweh be upon thee. So take it as you will, be frustrated by it. But once again, that's why you got to represent culture. You got somebody that comes in and maybe somewhere they actually believe that they are or something like that. But I've had phone calls. Like, y'all don't be knowing this. I've had phone calls with plenty of people who've told me. I don't want to say plenty. I mean, not a lot, like hundreds. But I've had probably like phone calls with like at least 3-4 people. I've known like maybe 5 or 6 people who I knew and at some point came to me and told me, "Oh, I'm the Messiah." One guy told me that he learned that he was actually Yashvai's brother, and so he's come back in many lives, and he realized he's Yashvai's brother. And so, but I wasn't supposed to tell anybody, like, so people have been saying stuff a long time, and you've run into more of these people probably than what you think, which is why it tells you to be careful. This is more of a spirit than what you think, right? This is more of what's going on than what you think. Real quiet as kept. You said, yeah, Yashvai came to teach, and he is returning to cleanse the earth. Yeah, so Yashvai has already came and teach. The Messiah has already came and taught. He said, feels like Elisha on the mount. Yeah, and those Baal priests. Yeah, and that's really what's coming down. And that's a great way of putting it. Or Baal priests, like the priests of Baal are coming hundreds deep. Right? This is the place where the altar is set, and it's not set with anything made by hands. And we put even water on it. We've allowed people to put water on it so they can try and go ahead and test it. And when we give a word with the fire, the spirit comes down and right shows clearly that this had to be Yahweh's hand, even in the teaching. That's why you got to be baptized by fire as well. And thank you, Sister Carrie, appreciate it. Said increasing in these days, false ideologies, false messiahs. Yeah, repent, turn away, right? Even in this Song of Degrees series, what did it say? I don't remember which one. Is it Psalm 126 or Psalm 125? Right? When he turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like, they that what? We talked about earlier, they that dream, right? It's time to turn from that captivity, right? But people we're sitting here in this Elijah moment. And it feels like sometimes that's why we got to have this stuff, even reach out and connect virtually. It feels like for a lot of us that we're the only one out here saying this. I mean, now we're getting to the point that we're false messiahs or a dime a dozen. I've had people on here, if y'all been around long enough, y'all know that I've had people on here tell me that I was a messiah. And I'll be like, no, don't put me in that. Or people say, peace, God, you are God. You wouldn't speak like if you weren't a God. No, don't put me in that. Like people won't even denounce those things. We got to a place where now people won't even say, hey, don't call me that. People talking about, I've had a lot of people, Apostle Kofi and blah, blah, this and that or whatever. Hey, I didn't get the memo on that. I'm okay with being kept at a pastor at a similar right now. I'm cool. I'm cool. You don't have to put the extra stuff on me. I promise you, I'm okay. I promise you, I am okay with being where I am. I am okay with being obedient. I am okay with being a servant, right? But sometimes people want you to become that, and you have to be careful. Let's just say, may the blessings be upon thee towards or from or in the name of Yahweh. That's a short way of saying it. Barak means blessing. Allah or al literally can mean upon thee. So it doesn't just have to be like the first part of Alacham or Elohim. It can also mean upon thee. So Barak, bless, right, or blessing. Al or Allah, upon thee. At, going towards. It can mean and, going towards, starting a new mindset, or here's where it's coming from, etc. At, Sham or Shem actually means authority or name. And then Yahweh. Yahweh is the name of the Most High. Sorry, you said, do you all have a recommendation for a workbook to teach children Hebrew characters? I don't know. We are working on having something where we're going to have for our children, period. So whether you're on live or you join the recordings and stuff, we're going to have some stuff. So if you guys want to participate in that, but I'm not sure if there's a particular book. I mean, maybe it's something that we should work on developing. We're working on developing all these other projects. I'm not sure. We have to look at it. We have teaching and stuff that we do as well on here. Even part of our Having Been Led As We Believe series, I teach Hebrew characters. If you want, even if some of you, I'm willing to even teach, I do so, and so does my wife. My wife's actually is more her lane. But, we teach children as well. For whatever reasons, only a very few people actually ask for us to help their children. But, we don't mind making sure that your children are learning stuff that our child is learning, or many other children we've taught and learned. And so you're just lost after hearing for years in Pentecostal and finding out that everything is a lie. And by the way, that's part of it. And at this point, we're going a little over. And I can't go too much further over because I'm still working on floor and stuff like that in the in the house and everything. But and I need to be in place to like actually move some stuff in a little while. But it got phone calls, of course, and all that too. And by the way, those who have Herbalism 2 will be on, as far as I know, unless you hear something different. If it changes, I'll let you guys know later on the live later, or we'll put it in the Google Calendar invite. But Herbalism 2 should be going for tonight, 9:00 p.m. Eastern New York time, if you're taking it. But yeah, as far as, I lost the question. Hold on, I'm sorry. Where were we at? I lost you. Hold on. Sorry, give me a second. I lost where I was as far as teaching the children, doing something like that. I don't know where I was headed. I apologize, y'all. Oh, Pentecostal. I am just lost after hearing for years in Pentecostal and finding out everything's a lie. That's part of the progression of things. Unfortunately, it's become part of the progression of things. We were taught many things that weren't real, whether it's Pentecostal, which, by the way, Pentecost became a charismatic movement, right, in the church, in Cirque. It became a charismatic movement. But the reality is Pentecost is just talking about 50. Like, people think Pentecostal means like charisma or charismatic church. Pentecost just means 50. That's because the actual day of Pentecost, Shabbat, the actual day of Shabbat was literally nothing more. Peep game. The actual day of Shabbat was nothing more than 50 days after Passover. We were supposed to ensure that we came together and celebrated the Most High. 50 years is a reset. 50 years is a jubilee. 50 years is even dealing with maturity. Even the 14th character, which is none, is actually the number 50. And so 50, it means perfection. It means to be mature. It means to grow up. So 50 days after Passover, after the first Passover, after the first Pasach, right? Nun, Yam, right? So Yam, Nun, or Nun, Yam, 50 days after. Nun, Yam, Shabbat, or Pentecost. That's all we were doing, was 50 days. So people took a whole movement off of something that we did every year. Acts chapter 2, that everybody hangs their hat on as if that was something that just happened after Yahshua died at that one time. I used to believe that too growing up, because that's how it was presented. But 50 days was Jubilee. So every year after the day of Pentecost, 50 days later, we were supposed to come back together to celebrate. In between there was even the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right after the day of Pentecost, right? And 40 days before that. So if you put that together, you kind of got 48 and then you got 50, like kind of all like different groups. But anyways, I'm getting into some different mathematical stuff that I don't even know if I'm ready to go into. But basically you got 40 days before Passover, right? You're supposed to already be starting to get the leaven out of your house. 14 days before Passover, basically is supposed to be, give or take one day, it's supposed to be before Passover, right? 1 week after, so that's 2 weeks. Then you have Passover for 1 week after Passover, 1 week. Now we've dropped it down. You're supposed to have what? You're supposed to have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now that you finished with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you got what? You got 43 days left to go to make it 50, to jump back up to 50 this year of Jubilee, right? So you're having kind of having an ebb and flow of things, with new moon and stuff as well coming in there for different Shabbats. By the way, each holy day is supposed to be a Shabbat within itself. So you're not supposed to do anything on that day if you can avoid it, or at least not do anything that's taken away from your Shabbat, right? But we turn the whole thing of 50 days later, right, which is a Shabbat. We turn that, Shabbat. We turn that whole thing into later, oh, this is a Pentecostal movement. Well, no, the Pentecostal movement is something that's been happening since the first day, or the first year, the first period of time, if you will, the first Yom, if you will. That was the first 50 days after that was the first Pentecost. And Pentecost happened for hundreds of years before you see Acts chapter 2. And Pentecost has never stopped happening since Acts chapter 2. But somebody wants you and I to believe that Pentecost is something that should only happen on a Sunday. It should be no. Pentecost was something that was an everyday process. So a lot of us have learned stuff like that. Or what about people who became Baptists? Made a whole thing of Baptists because they're the only ones that baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. People have been baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit since Matthew 28. Then you got somebody, well, we're apostolic and we baptize in the name of Jesus. Well, first of all, there was no letter J, so you couldn't have baptized in that name back then. But even if you're saying we only baptize in the name of the Son, the word Son, or the word name, once again, it means Shem. It means authority. So when you baptize somebody in the authority of Yahshua himself never actually baptized anybody. See how we got to get back to kingdom values, right? I just want to show you how all these religiosity, so to speak, have messed up and have made it about them and narcissism rather than proper exegesis or eisegesis. In other words, they become narcissistic. Do it our way, or it's not great enough, right? So if you have somebody, you got to realize that somebody says we baptize in the name of the Son only. The Son himself, the only begotten Son, never baptized anybody. And he doesn't baptize in fire either, because the Holy Spirit does that. Baptism in fire is the Holy Spirit showing up. Baptism by water, he never baptized anybody. Matter of fact, and I could be wrong with this because I know there's spit and stuff like that, but as far as actually him standing in water and baptizing or even healing anybody, I think the only person that happened with was John the Baptist, his own cousin. And that was when he still in the water, got baptized. And it also was when it was in his mother's water. When John was in his mother's water, John was stillborn, their bellies bumped, and then boom, he became better. But all of us were taught. So if you were a Baptist, Free Will Baptist, Southern Baptist, missionary Baptist, whatever, if you Baptist, you believe that you're better than others because of the way you baptize. But that ain't nothing new. And it's not talking about that. But also if you're saying you only baptize in the name of the Son, you don't realize that the Son didn't baptize anybody. So when it's talking about the Son, the name or the authority of the Son, it's talking about what did he authorize? Well, the Son told you in Matthew 28, verses 18 through 20, all power is given to him in heaven and earth, right? So go, therefore, to all nations, right? Baptizing them in what? The Sham, Atsham, Abba, Atsham, Bar, Atsham, Lavak HaKodash, or in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teaching them also to what? Observe towards doing. That's Deuteronomy 28 coming back. Teaching them to observe towards doing all these things that he's commanded, and la or lo, right? Even hana, right? Hana, right? Lo, or pay attention, or I will always be with you, or don't go with the fall for the okie doke. Lo, pay attention. Behold, I will be with you always. Right? But somebody made a whole religion out of it. So we deal with Baptists, we deal with, the naming the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all this stuff. We dealt with, what about Methodists? Methodists call themselves Methodists because they say they teach proper methodology, right? So they say their methods are better than everybody else. But if you're a Methodist and you believe in having communion, but you don't do Passover meals, you have the wrong method. What is your method based on? We could keep going down the list. If you're Lutheran, Lutherans believe that they're the ones that helped everybody to get everything together in Protestantism. Problem with Protestantism is that the Pope of Protestantism is the king or the queen, now the king of England, which means that you aren't by yourself. And Martin Luther himself didn't even leave the Roman Catholic faith. He actually apologized. He said, look, I wasn't trying to cause people to leave. I was just trying to tell you guys needed to be better with certain things you were doing that's hindering Christianity. What about somebody who says, I'm a Mormon? Mormons are under Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith preached that it was okay to mistreat Black people, right? Preached that the Mormon Jesus and the devil actually both had valid points, but the Mormon Jesus won. So those who won with the Mormon Jesus, they became white folk. Those who fought with the devil, they became people that can't inhabit bodies. And those that were cowards, they became people of color, which has no scientific relativity to anything or any religion or whatever. Right? But allows for things. He taught that it's okay to mistreat women and to have sister wives. That's what y'all be watching in all these shows y'all be watching. Right? He said he's the reason why some Moors now and some of our people are trying to argue that Israel was not in actual Israel, but Israel was in America because he renamed a whole bunch of these spots, as a bunch of his followers did, because he said that the chosen people of Israel were not people of color. They were not even Black folk. He said that they were white people who lived over here in the States. So when you hear somebody making that argument, oh, well, Israel's really in America. No, it's not. Joseph Smith taught y'all that, and he hated y'all. He said that he had his own tablets, and they were not stone tablets, they were gold tablets. And nobody was allowed to see him except him. And he would put his face in his bag. And he said that these things were like, hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds or something like that, but nobody could carry them except him. Right? That's real. So even, right, that's where you get terms like white and delightsome from. We don't even know. But we have all these people who are following different religiosities because we were taught all this stuff. And you have people say all people believe the same thing. Look, I was born and raised a Jehovah's Witness for the most part. Right? Father was a Baptist, but my father was working 2.5 jobs. Mama was who taught us how to study, taught us how to pray. And I thank y'all for her, right? But we're not going to act like everything the Jehovah's Witnesses were doing were valid. And they come from Russell. They used to be called Russellites, Charles Taze Russell. And Russellites believed that you were supposed to follow the teachings of Russell before the teachings of the Bible. He taught that if you follow his insane books that they still use today, the Insight to the Scriptures, if you read those, it was actually better for you to read those than it was to read the Bible, because he was more proficient at explaining the word of Yah than the people who wrote it themselves. Amen, Sister Jolene. We're glad to be here for you. Right? Like, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who are all over the place. So if we're talking about this stuff, we have to get back to kingdom is my ultimate point. That's the ultimate goal. Oh, thank you, Sister Jolene. Appreciate you. All right, that's the ultimate goal. We were lied to. And when we were lied to, we believed the lie, and we grew up in the lie. Matter of fact, it's not as simple as that. Our ancestors were lied to. Our ancestors were stripped from who they are. Then once we stripped who they were, and they told the next generation to not worry about who they were so that they wouldn't have to worry about the next generation getting beat too bad. Then all of a sudden they told the next generation, they beat the will to teach generationally what was going on from the parent. Then they just beat the child into submission because there was no buffering. We're going to give you back the buffering. We're going to give you back the buffering in the name of the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. Right? We're going to give you back the buffering. That's the problem. That's the problem that you've had. The problem that you've had is that somebody took away what caused you to be able to have a prism to view it through. They told you were nothing more than a slave. Slave movie after slave movie after slave movie after slave movie. When are we going to get that Mansa Musa movie? They gave you a fictitious Wakanda, When we gonna get that actual Mansa Musa movie? When we gonna get that actual? You know they have some of those over in Africa, of course. You know, when we gonna get that Queen and Zinga movie? When we gonna get that Golden Chair movie? When are we gonna get that Negro Land Guinea movie? When are we gonna get that movie that shows when you have the Bread Coast and the Ivory Coast and the Slave Coast and the Gold Coast? When we gonna go back to the Slave Coast, and when we see up there not black people but white people made up the map in the 1700s, there where they showed you where Negro Land was and showed you that in the Slave Coast there was a kingdom there called the Kingdom of Judah. When are we gonna get that movie? You see that? That's the stuff that we're missing. They took away your prism. Even when you talk about you're proud to be African, you still are proud usually to talk about it only from a prism of your being in captivity. But there were still Israelites, even up into the 1700s, that we see had a kingdom. And when you see yourself as a king or queen, you live different. When you see that before you had Eurocentric names and faces on your money, you had value, then you don't care about money the same. At least not Eurocentric money. When you know, did you hear what I just said? I'm trying to go ahead and take our leave. I know we're over. Like I said, we're going to be a little over today, right? We're not going to go too far over, but hear me and hear me well. Do you value Eurocentric, and it's 11:11, babe, if you're seeing it. You value Eurocentric, hear what I'm saying? You value Eurocentric faces on paper and on clothing. You value those things. You know why? Because you see no value in yourself. So you value those things, right? But you don't. But when you learn that you were kings and queens before you needed a Eurocentric face on a piece of paper, then you don't value that as much. You don't look for that to be what makes you who you are. You're not looking for that to be what you're going to try and build your society off of. Now you realize the same way that they don't really value it as much as you think they do, right? They don't worry about stuff. How you doing, Trauma Shop? I'm sorry, I missed you earlier. How you doing, Denise? I missed you earlier as well, right? That you realize that I don't need to value those things. They don't even keep real fiat cash on them. They don't want a bunch of money in the bank account. They want as much liquid assets. They want as much investments. They want as much land. They want as much property as possible. 11:11. Well, it's just something I speak to my wife. It has to do with angel numbers and stuff like that, right? So she when she sees those numbers or whatever, we usually speak those back to each other. So something we do for ourselves. But yeah, so like this, you know, it's powerful. It's powerful to be in a position to where like you realize that you're bigger than what they said. When we start realizing that we can live inside of that which we have pursued. Why? Because we've stopped pursuing someone else's promises. We've pursued the promises of the Most High, and the promises of the Most High are for you, which means they can look like you. It's okay. Once again, like we're talking about food, nobody gets mad when you go to a Chinese restaurant and it looks like China in there, right? Matter of fact, if I go to a Chinese restaurant, I want chopsticks, and don't give me just any chopsticks. Like, don't give me the cheap one. I want the chopsticks that are best used. Even if I'm not the greatest with using them, I want the experience because you cook the food to be able to make sure that it goes well with the chopsticks. The rice, the way they make the rice is made different. You try to eat your rice with some chopsticks, you're going to have a problem, but they make their rice different. Why? Because their rice needs to be eaten with chopsticks. The culture is all around it. It should look like China. It should feel like it. The music should be there. When I go into a Chinese restaurant, I don't really be rocking with the stuff like that the way I do, but I appreciate the fact that Chinese music is playing because it makes me feel like I'm in a Chinese environment. Matter of fact, when I walk in a Chinese restaurant, it should be a representative. It should be like I'm walking into an embassy. I should be walking into another nation. They do that with, once again, Italian restaurants. Right. Matter of fact, when you go to McDonald's, you don't even realize, like, I guess it's not anymore because it's been so much of a corporation. But if you can remember back, especially if you maybe 50, 60, 70 years old, but there was a time where you walk into a McDonald's are like Irish. It's like Irish food. And then Irish food that became Americanized. That's why potatoes are all over the place. You don't think about it. But when you go to McDonald's, right? McDonald's, you think, old McDonald had a farm. You forget that those farmers were also Irishmen as well, especially the ones that broke away from fighting for injustice with us, right? When they were given the opportunity to, right? But they came from other places. But McDonald's, right? It's something where you got Irish cuisine. So of course you got a lot of stuff with potatoes, potato chips. Sometimes with some of these McDonald's, but not really. But you got potato fries. Sometimes back in the day, they used to have actual potatoes you could have. You got hash browns. Potatoes are going to be a big part of the whole meal. Why? Because you're dealing with Irish cuisine. At least at one point, it was purely or mostly Irish cuisine. Right? It was stuff that was made and put together with American values. Yeah, a lot of plaid, different things like that. Before there wasn't a clown initially. I forget what the thing was initially. Originally, they used the arches. It wasn't even, arches the way that you look at the M. They started using that. The golden arches, they were two separate arches, right? Arches have stuff, especially if you think about rainbows or arches or different things. You're talking about a culture. That's what it was, right? You go to these places, you expect to see a culture. Chick-fil-A, supposedly there's supposed to be people that are super high Christians and have these Christian morals and ideals and stuff like that. So you don't expect to go to Chick-fil-A on Sunday. And when you see it open Monday through Saturday, you don't care what time of day it is, what it is. You don't care what that person's even feeling or experiencing. You expect that wherever you are, that Chick-fil-A experience is going to be very Christian, don't you? You want them to say, how may I serve you? You expect them to say, thank you. So when you say thank you, you expect them to say, my pleasure. Matter of fact, if you don't hear my pleasure, you tell on them at the window. They say, what's wrong? Well, they didn't say my pleasure to me. I was waiting for that. So I'm just saying, these are the things that we. Oh, McDowell's with the plaid, excuse me, not McDowell's, right? And things like that. So these are the things that we're saying. And the same thing, it's okay for you to look like you. Psalm 131, the 12th step, it says it's okay for you to identify as Israel and be kingdom-minded, be Afrocentric, be bibliocentric. They want you to be heliocentric. How about be bibliocentric? It's okay to know the KJV as well as the KJVA. It's okay to know the book of Enoch. Brothers, by the way, we're in the book of Jasher. So when we get to the third Saturday for this month, that's what we're going into, is the book of Jasher. So hopefully you guys will join us for that, right? Oh, no problem. No, it took me a minute to figure out the McDowell's thing from Coming to America. I got you. But I'm just saying, we have all these things going on. So don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't let somebody pull you down. Don't let somebody suggest to you that it's okay to give up who you are and lift up everybody else, but you can lift up yourself. And by the way, by lifting up yourself, it doesn't mean you're pushing everybody else down. If nothing else, to be the greatest version of yourself, even if you start floating above others, to be the greatest version of yourself means you're in a position to pull up others up. Why not do so? Anyways, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for being on. Remember, we're probably going to be on Kofi_42 for everything up until Monday. So thank you for being on. We appreciate you. If for some reason I don't see you later on tonight when we come on, early Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Please check out my wife, as always, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we appreciate and thank her so much for her diligence and what she's doing in the community. Thank you guys for showing up. We'll see you guys later this evening. Herbalism 2 should be on for this evening, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. I'll see you guys somewhere around 7:45 to 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. Thank you to everybody for what you're doing. Don't forget the Women in Red coming up December 24th, December 31st, watch night service, and look for YouTube. We'll start having some specific and specials, maybe 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, something like that, just for you guys to be able to listen to and learn from, to grow from, and to maybe know a little bit more about why we do what we do for Christmas. And also, too, if you don't mind, we're going to be having some people who are going to be giving and lending their gifts and having to put in some hours to make sure that some of these cartoons and things that we might develop for the children will be coming up. If you'd like to be able to give a little donation to help us out in those areas, it'd be much appreciated. So thank you all. We appreciate you. We honor the King, Queen, in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside of it yet, we appreciate the potential King, Queen, in each and every one of you. Study this message, meditate on it, pray about it, whatever you need to be able to not only be a hearer of it, but also be a doer simultaneously. And that's all I have for you guys today. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, Yahshua, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. And once again, just in case I don't see you later today, Shabbat Shalom, Barak Allah, Sham Yechava. May the blessings of the Most High be upon thee, may blessings be upon thee in the name of Yechava. Barak Allah at Sham Yechava. Amen. Peace.